Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Dispel. This week I have two awesome TikToker guests. Well, I have one. I have Raven the Rebel. If you're not following him, we're going to put his hashtag up. And then I have Chris. He was here last week. Don't worry, we're not going to ask him 10 more questions. We know all about him. We need to
We
know.
do.
How's your 13-year-old wife doing, Chris?
She's doing great, and I did school some of those liberal neighbors I had that I was talking about
Okay,
last
so
week. They exist.
they exist. Okay, well, this week the theme of the show is we are going to talk about conservatism, and I guess we'll call it religion or spirituality. There is a pervading myth in America that all conservatives are white Christians. Now, Chris, I know you are actually Asian, but you are also a white supremacist. So
That's
this
true, so
week,
we can count it.
yes, so
Yep.
this week I would like you to identify as Asian for this conversation if you could not be racist against
I'll
everybody.
go. I'll go get my yellow face and put it on.
Okay, great.
Get
Fantastic.
you too.
So we want to talk about how that conservatism appeals not only to a broad group of people, what it is, why, and specifically about how it appeals to your spirituality, or in Chris's case, who is agnostic, and I, as a white conservative Christian, am required to say going straight to hell, how it appeals to him.
It is getting a
So
little hot in here.
yeah, well, I'm sure it is, buddy. So So the first thing I want to talk about, though, is that we have, and again, a pervading myth that needs to be dispelled. And I believed this growing up, too. I used to walk around and say this, that there is separation of church and state in the Constitution. So, Raven, I'm going to ask you, is there separation of church and state in the Constitution? Or were you
Well,
taught that or believed it?
yes, I was taught that in school.
Okay.
Mhm.
And believed it?
Yep.
How about you, Chris?
I was taught that, and I did believe it.
Yeah, you know what? I did too. And that's amazing because I actually went to a private Christian school.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yes, and I was still taught that. So, one, that makes me very leery of schools. But two, it's amazing how pervasive that myth is. So, I have here, and I shared it on TikTok, my handy dandy Declaration of Independence and Constitution. And, one of the things I love about the first 10 amendments of the Constitution is how short they are. Like our founding fathers were like, look, this is it, don't confuse it. That's why when people start to extrapolate this philosophy of 10,000 words, I'm like, it's 5 lines. It's 5 lines, buddy. Calm down. So,
Just 5.
it's okay. So let's read the First Amendment. Let's see what this bad boy has to say. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So we have confirmed there is no separation of church and state in the First Amendment. Now, tell me what you guys think the First Amendment really said. Like when you hear that, what is that saying to you? Like what it, especially when it comes to religion.
Oh, do you want me to speak? Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So yes, when it comes to religion, I hear two things in the First Amendment. That is the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. The Free Exercise Clause being that the government can't prohibit certain religions from being practiced by the people in public or in private, as long as they're not infringing on someone else's right to practice their own religion. And the Establishment Clause, which is the contentious one that a lot of leftists seem to think means that there can be no trace of any religion in any kind of public life. Really what it means is the government can't put up for example, if we want to use Christianity, put up a cross and say this is the religion, this is the religion of the government, and you must be this religion as well. So that's really what it
Yeah.
is. It's not saying that there can't be anything that resembles religion anywhere in public life. That is a myth.
Yes. The freedom from religion argument. So Raven, I
Yes.
know you've shared with me that at one point in your life you were a adamant, hardcore atheist.
Militant atheist. Yeah.
What was your perspective on this from there, and how has it changed?
Oh, okay. So my perspective on like Christianity itself, or like, oh,
Well, when you were an atheist about religion and Christianity and what you felt the government or the Constitution backed up, or even if you cared about the Constitution. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, I had like no knowledge of the Constitution besides what I had been taught in school, which is a lot of the time incorrect. But as for religion itself, I don't really understand why I had such a problem with Christians, especially considering I was raised by them. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like I got to like a certain age, and people were telling me like, "Oh yeah, Christians hate you because you're gay. Like, why are you okay with that? Like, you should be angry." And
Mm-hmm.
I guess I kind of was. I
Mm-hmm.
hated Christians so much. I thought that, they were all out to get me. They wanted to stone me to death. Yeah, they
That
had me
does
like,
happen. That does happen a lot. So usually over the communion crackers, but I get what you're saying.
yeah. So, once I kind of like, began exposing myself to, actual, Christians, even if I like disagree with the fact that, they think what I'm doing is wrong, I understand, I guess, and I understand there's a difference between hating someone and disagreeing with what they're doing. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
really a breath of fresh air to know that, there aren't all these straight white Christians out to get me.
Well, actually,
Just
it's interesting though, because one of the things that you said is interesting, and that is that even if Christian, again, I'm an agnostic, so I don't necessarily view homosexual activity as a sin in and of itself. However, if you really look at sexual morality in Christianity, 99% of stuff that straight couples do is also a sin.
Oh, yeah.
mm-hmm.
I'll say
So
I've read
it's
the
not
Bible. Yeah.
exactly. So it's not that like, and I think that's one of the things that like, even as a non-Christian or non-practicing
Mm-hmm.
person, I still like to tell people that a lot of people think that the entirety of the Bible is just built around condemning gay people, and it's the
Yeah.
vast majority of stuff that young people do, period, isn't
Yes.
isn't
Is,
really
yeah,
permissible to God.
is not allowed. It's a sin.
Yeah. I mean,
Blasphemy.
yeah. That's Christianity is around moral purity. That is not restricted to gay people. There's also, you're not supposed to be having sex before marriage. You're not supposed to be out drinking. You're not supposed to be out smoking. You're not supposed to be out, taking drugs. You're not supposed to disrespect their parents. There are a lot of things that Christianity is like, hey, don't do that. So the idea that it's all centered around we hate this one group of people um is real. I mean, it's a political talking point to keep, people separated and
Yeah.
close-minded. And I think one of the challenges that frustrates me as a Christian is I meet people who aren't Christians, and they always assume I hate them. And the thing I always tell them is my job is to love you and show you Christ's love. It's not to hate you. Anything else is between you and God or not God. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm not here to judge you because I don't have a place to judge you. And I think it's ridiculous because the American church has grossly failed at sending out that message. We have allowed the message to be hijacked, for one, and two, we don't do a very good job of sending it out ourselves. So that's why I do talk about religion on TikTok, because I don't agree with that attitude of we're supposed to go around and condemn people. I mean, in our belief, Jesus was perfect. He didn't go around condemning people. So if
You
he wasn't good enough to do
yeah.
it, I'm pretty sure that all the other Christians that are not me are not good enough to do it. I am, but the rest of them aren't. So
I guess the way to sum that up would be that Christianity is a good message that has a lot of bad messengers. I think that's kind of
yeah,
a way to
I
put it.
think that is, and I think a lot of religions have that, right? But
Absolutely.
Christianity is so predominant in the US that, it gets that of, and people like fire and brimstone, and I think they like someone to point to, especially if you're not walking in the steps of a religion you claim, and go, well, at least I'm not that bad. At least I'm
Yeah,
not doing
and that
this.
and that's human nature to do that. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
not a good thing to do that, but it is human. It's very natural.
Yeah, the comparison. What I think is interesting about Christians who do that is that if you study and embrace Christianity, one of the things you find out is that in God's eyes, the God we believe in, all sin is the same, right? There's no layer of sin.
There is
There's no, he doesn't have a hierarchy,
that.
right? A murderer is the same sin, is the same sin as a thief in God's eyes. We as humans equate that because of our justice system, understandably. But in God's eyes, a sin is a sin. So you can kill someone and you can steal or lie. In his eyes, it's all the same. So it cracks me up when people who go around gossiping and lying and doing all of that want to point their fingers at other people and go, oh, wow, they're gay, or they're living outside of marriage. Dude, in God's eyes, you're all the same. So I don't know why you're pointing over at anybody else, because to him, he's like, the fact that you're gossiping about them is equal to what they're doing. So maybe stop doing that. Because we call them the big sins and little sins. I'm like, well, we can do that, and I'm guilty of it. But that's actually not how it
Not how it
works.
works in God's eyes.
No, not at all. So, but yeah, I think the First Amendment, people use that and they want to say the separation of church and state. And the Establishment Clause is not that the government and religion have to be completely separate. What our founding fathers were concerned about is when they had left England, you had wars because Henry VIII founded the Church of England because he wanted to marry Anne Boleyn, and then he decided to persecute the Catholics. Then the Catholics took over and they decided to persecute the Protestants. And it went back and forth, and it became a political tool where you could, oh, they're a Catholic, I've exposed them and killed them. Or, oh, they're a Protestant, and I've exposed them and I killed them. And our founding fathers did not want government and religion enmeshed so that we could use it to persecute people.
Well, let me actually jump in for a sec. One of the things that I haven't said this to somebody yet, but I do want to say this to somebody. If any laws that resembled anything from any religious faith, if that was truly an infringement on the First Amendment, which leftists claim it would be, it would be unconstitutional to have any laws prohibiting murder and larceny, which we fully embrace.
Perjury would be
perjury, exactly, because those are the 10 Commandments. And that's something I wanted to touch on at some point in this discussion. Is that 7 out of the 10 Commandments, 7 out of 10 of those are things that universally, as a functioning society, both the religious and the non-religious, the Christians and the non-Christians would accept as good values. Even if you are totally even when I used to be somewhat of a militant atheist too years ago. I'm now more humble as a conservative than I was as a leftist. I say I don't know instead of But
really?
But even at my most militant stages of atheism, I would have accepted 7 out of the 10 Commandments as good values, and they are Judeo-Christian values.
They are propagated. And other people say, well, those laws came, they had them in ancient civilizations, and they did. But those moral laws were propagated by Christianity. They were spread worldwide by Christianity, and they are associated. Nobody goes, oh, the 10 Commandments. I remember when published those in stone. No, they're considered the 10 Commandments of Christianity. And I remember there was a chick on TikTok who said, what we need in our lives is less of the 10 Commandments. And I'm like, so we need
more murder, more stealing, more
lying, more stealing, more adultery.
We just need anarchy. How about that?
Yeah, hey, what we need is, we need less of the 10 Commandments. Have you read the 10 Commandments? I don't think
Forever purge in real life.
Right, exactly.
Why not?
So I was kind of like, okay, somebody doesn't know the 10 Commandments. I think it,
that's my thing. It's like I was against Christianity, but I wasn't against the 10 Commandments until I actually sat down and read the 10 Commandments. Even when I was a hardcore militant atheist, I'm just like, how can you be against something if you don't even know what it is you're against? Come on now.
It's possible.
Have
you been on TikTok? Because there's a lot of people who are against things. Just like the guy the other day who was against Republicans because they fought for slavery. And he was against that. So it's 100% possible. No, and you're right. That's what cracks me up is people who are opposed to the 10 Commandments. I'm like, what? I don't understand why you think. Look, if you don't want to, if you don't want to take a day off, you don't want to honor the Sabbath. That okay?
Yeah, you could say that we have weekends because of the 10 Commandments.
Yeah,
exactly. If you want to give up
your damn you weekends, I will work. Oh,
I will make stolen.
I'll show you, God. I'm working on Sunday. No, it is funny, and it's funny that people think that the government can. And if you go to the Supreme Court, and of course, I don't know if you visited, but because I know you're a Supreme Court junkie like I am, but it has Moses handing down the laws And I remember there was a big move by atheists to have that removed, and everybody was like, you want to spend how many millions of tax? Like, get over yourself. Okay. We're not doing that.
By the way, Terry, though, since when did leftist protesters care about how much money the federal government spends?
Well, they don't, because they're just, it's government
That's
money.
my point.
Yes. It's government money, and the government has all the money it can take from us. So, government money. Oh, so if you ever want to be in like a live conversation with me, have someone say government money and watch me turn into the people from Alabama with a chair. Okay. Because I will lose my mind over the phrase government money. Oh, it just makes me crazy. So the second part of and the reason I really want to, we talked about religion, and honestly, I want to give an idea of where, and I have it pulled up here, where the idea of church and state came from. And it was actually in a letter from Thomas Jefferson. Now, I'm sure this is going to come as a shock to you guys, but we do not actually base our laws on letters, even if they're from Thomas Jefferson. No, we actually depend on the Constitution. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, because the letter was to a person and not to everybody. And hold on, nobody voted on it and passed it as a law. So what I'm going to tell you is, and I hope you have something to drink or someone to comfort you.
Hold on, though. Since when does the left care about people voting on things? I thought they like executive
I thought they were
orders.
like anarchists or something.
Well, that's true. We could just do an yeah. But for those of us who don't buy into that, and I hope you have someone here to comfort you, the fact that Jefferson wrote this in a letter is actually completely irrelevant to the law. So calm down. Yeah, I know, Chris. I know. So, and what's funny is this letter was actually written because the Danbury Baptist Association was worried that when their state passed the state constitution, there were not enough protections for the church from the government. And so they wrote to Thomas Jefferson and said, our state has ratified a constitution and we don't feel there's enough religious protection to keep the government away from us. And Jefferson wrote them back to assure them that regardless of what their state had done, that the First Amendment guaranteed separation of church and state, meaning the church could not persecute, control, or manipulate the church. So what's hilarious is when people bring this up, I'm like, he wasn't even talking about keeping religion out of the government. He was talking about keeping the government out of religion. So I think and I love it when people, separation of church and state, that's a letter. Please stop bringing that up. Nobody's signed an executive order yet. The second half, of course, goes on and talks about free speech of people, which I personally feel is under attack right now. And Chris, I know you brought this up on the last podcast. And to prove our point, we have two bills I want to bring to everybody's attention, and we'll put these up. But one of them, and I don't know if you've heard of these, Raven. The first one is Senate bill. It is 1671, Digital Platform Commission Act of 2023. Chris, you're more familiar with this one. You want to share what this little bad boy is going to do for us? Or
we could.
So the other part that we want to focus on the First Amendment tonight is freedom of speech. And right now, and freedom of the press. And right now, both of those things are very much under attack in America. There's actually two bills out on the Senate, right? One's in the Senate, one's in the House in Washington. So the Senate bill is 1671, Digital Platform Commission Act of 2023. So Chris, I know you were a big supporter of this bill, and you want it to pass.
Oh, of course.
So
Power to the
I
West.
would like for you to talk about how this bill is going to benefit us and not cost us billions of dollars.
Yeah, and by the way, Terry, you're going to go to hell. You just lied. I'm not a supporter of this bill. But
but I'm not gay. So.
That's the only sin, right? The only sin. So essentially, so we know that the left loves creating commissions of people to do nonsense things. That's what they do. It's we're going to assign 30 people. The taxpayers are going to pay their salaries, and we're just going to tell them to do stuff.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second, Chris. I've always said there's two ways to not work in life and how to be on easy street. One is to win the lottery. The other is to get a government job on a commission. So if I can get a job on a commission, because I think a lot of government workers work very hard under difficult, but I would like to get a job on a commission where I sit and go,
Shit, I'd love to get a job on a commission. I
Yeah,
wouldn't have to do
that
anything.
seems unfair. Let's commission a study. Wait 5 years and read it to people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
Anyway,
this,
continue.
absolutely. So this commission has a few purposes, and I'm just gonna read through them really quickly. It's really a bunch of nonsense, but essentially it's
As expected.
yep. So the purpose of this commission is to have access to digital platforms and ensure that that everybody has access for civic engagement and economic and educational opportunities. So that's
So
number
is
one.
TikTok and YouTube and X, which is now a big bastion of free speech, are those digital platforms, Chris?
Yeah, so
Right.
I believe those will be digital platforms under this. So
Okay.
let me continue. Access to government services and public safety, to ensure that there's proper freedom for competition to encourage the creation of new online services and innovation. In other words, ensuring that there's a free market, which there is already.
Yeah,
Um,
I was about to say, yeah, it's not
yeah,
already.
we don't have a free market.
Stalin would be proud.
so there's
Yes.
so there's a lot so there's a lot of kind of generic shit in here. Sorry, I'm cursing.
Yeah.
A lot of generic stuff in here. But if there's one part of this that catches my eye, it's to provide protection for consumers, including those in communities of color and underserved populations, from deceptive, unfair, unjust, unreasonable, or abusive practices committed by digital platforms. So, making sure that those people's voices are as loud as possible, probably, and my guess is at the expense of white people, because we see this
Oh,
already.
Hey, I have a question. So it says by digital platforms. So if the platforms become self-aware, are we in Terminator?
Oh my god, literally. We're an iRobot.
Are the are the digital platforms aware and they're attacking people?
That's what
So I think so the idea is to find some really super magically unbiased people who are going to make these decisions. Obviously,
Oh, that should be interesting.
Let's
yeah,
see.
very
Hey,
interesting.
let me ask you a question. What party is a member? The person who submitted this, what party are they a member of?
This is Senator Michael Bennett from Colorado, Democrat.
Oh, that's shocking. I thought
Oh, how shocking.
I thought people who supported civil rights, and free, people having freedom wouldn't want to silence free speech. So I'm gonna, Raven, what do you think this commission is actually going to do? Chris has read in it. We know Chris is a supporter. I'm assuming you oppose it. What do you think this bill is actually going to do? If
Oh, it's most definitely going to uplift minority voices at the expense of white people. Because why not? Obviously,
What?
racism is perfectly fine if it's towards white people. This is Actually, no. Racism doesn't even exist if it's towards white people. This is common.
That's true.
But
That's true.
okay, the odd thing about this is a lot of these platforms are already doing this. TikTok already does this. Instagram already does this. So what are these people doing that these woke big tech moguls are not already doing? That's my question.
That is. And my thing is, who does it? And I always go back to this, and there's a video on TikTok that talked about where there are very few people who don't have access to digital platforms, laptops, and are able to do this. And we already have a free market. That's how we ended up
Really?
with all the digital platforms we have.
By
Or
the
am
way,
I wrong? Am I missing something? Is it me?
also, speaking of crazy people on TikTok, I actually got the person blocked me, so I don't have the comments anymore. But somebody actually tried to tell me that TikTok, good thing you're gonna do a spit take if you're drinking something. Somebody
I'm not.
told me that TikTok is the last platform where the left feels safe having their own opinion. Somebody said this.
Oh my god.
Somebody really said this to me. They said, by the way, thank you guys. By the way, thank you guys for laughing because I would have felt really. I just want to tell you guys. I just wanted to tell you guys that I would have felt. Let me make you a funny comment. I would have felt really. Here, I'll wait for a sec.
Chris, give me a second.
Sorry.
It's
I'm
like,
sorry. I was
Does
not prepared for that.
Does it feel comfortable sharing their opinion?
Okay. So,
Where is she sharing her opinion? Is she going to like KKK meetings and sharing it? And then is that?
Oh, I'm crying. Oh, I'm gonna get. Oh, I'm
My
gonna
face
get cardiac
hurts.
arrest.
So I just wanted to say thank you guys for laughing because I would have been really embarrassed if I said it and then there was crickets. So thank I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh,
God. The
oh my
last
god.
safe place. I'm sorry, didn't we have like a like a summer of protests and riots where they were sharing their opinion? The last safe place, what? Because X now doesn't lets conservatives share opinion. Oh my
I mean that's the
God.
thing. X still has really robust protections for hate speech
Yeah.
that the left would agree with. They just also enforce it evenly on
Right.
leftists, and that's what they
Yeah.
don't like. It's not that they're biased the other way. It's just
Right.
a little more
They're fair.
even-handed. Yeah.
Yes, they're a little more even-handed. Oh my God, the last safe place. Where
The
I don't.
last place.
Where would you not? And here's the thing: even though I'm a conservative, there's no place I don't feel safe expressing my opinion. I'll
I
go
mean,
go.
Yeah,
I
me
feel
too.
safe on TikTok. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we all get canceled on TikTok, but
Yes.
we
I
don't
lost
feel
an account.
unsafe.
Yeah.
We don't feel like we're at risk of being murdered. We just
I
get annoyed.
Yeah. That's why I'm just like, God dang it! Quit being so oversensitive. But I think that's the throwing around of the word safe.
Yeah.
So, but this bill talks about making people feel safe. I don't know how you feel unsafe on digital platforms because I've had people. I mean, Raven, you've been on when I've been called, inappropriate names, and I've
Yeah,
had threats. And you know what I do? I block the person and move on with my life. And
that's
so
what I
I'm
do.
not
I just
sure.
go block, move on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think this attitude that speech is unsafe is very dangerous
I mean,
to
Absolutely.
yeah,
to the
because
First Amendment.
words cannot hurt you. My words cannot like leap through the screen, wrap around your neck, and strangle you till your face turns blue. Like my
Well,
words
I mean,
Yeah.
cannot.
one of the things that leftists always say is, can't inflammatory words incite violence? And my response is always, if you're a normal person, somebody's
Mm-hmm.
words won't make you violent. If you're
No.
somebody with a
Yeah,
predisposition towards psychopathy and violence already,
Yeah.
then you may become violent, but that's because you have a problem. That's not because of the
Yes.
word.
Well, yeah, and and I'm like, well, first of all, it's personal responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
something.
So, yeah, I can be
What's
in a
that?
crowd.
Lily,
Yeah.
what is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that was naughty. Do you guys feel unsafe? Do you need a minute?
Yes, hold on. I'm sorry. Give me a second. I need to open to myself.
This is not TikTok. This is not the place where you feel safe. But my thing is, I could be in a crowd or I could be by myself, and somebody could be screaming in my ear to kill someone, and I'd just be like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. I don't want
Yeah,
to
no.
go to jail." And so it's all about you can get up and say whatever you want, but you can't make people do things. And I wonder how weak-minded someone has to be influenced that way.
Yeah.
And this was a recent argument I had. Well, I actually feel like I'm just being stalked by somebody who keeps sending me comments. Was that the of course the propaganda media, which is not the mainstream media, and other people who supported Trump caused the January 6th insurrection because they were spreading hate and they incited violence. And I said, well, what do you want to do? Well, and because they lied, I said, okay, well, what do you want to do about it? Well, you shouldn't be allowed to lie. And I said, well, I think lying is wrong, but what about free speech? Well, if we elect ethical politicians, they should be able to decide what is facts and what should be allowed on the news. So
Uh,
first of all, ethical politician is
Hold
the
on.
biggest
I'm about to
oxymoron.
say ethical politician.
Well, the thing I was going to say is, so politicians should be the ones deciding what information the general public gets to know and not know?
As long as they're ethical,
Oh,
ethical
okay.
politicians, like, that is the epitome of an oxymoron, an ethical politician.
Okay, yeah, as soon as I hear that, I'm just like, oh, okay, so you want communism. All right.
Yes, exactly. And my thing is, truth is, while there is an absolute truth, there's also an interpretation of it,
Yeah.
right? In that, if I say, as a conservative, I believe small government is better and lower taxation is better for the economy, to me that's true. I'm not being manipulative, I'm not spreading propaganda. I have facts that
That,
I believe back that up. That is a truth. Now
that's
if
your
you talk to
yeah.
a liberal, yeah, what are they going to say? They're going to say, no, we need more federal government to protect. They're not lying. To them, that is the
Yeah,
truth.
their
right?
interpretation of the truth. And I feel
Exactly. Their interpretation of what's better. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, like I feel like that's an important like distinction to make. There's the truth, there's your truth, and there's
Yeah.
your interpretation of the truth.
Right. And that's
Yes.
and perception is truth at times. And I've had to coach leaders about that when they told me, well, people think blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, they think their perception right now is truth, and that is something you can change. So to say that we need a government commission to decide what is acceptable on platforms or what is truth is really saying we're going to silence these people, because you cannot be unbiased in politics, religion, any of that, and be able to, be the arbiter of people's truth and what is not propaganda. So I think that, again, this is an attack on speech, but I think even worse is, and I'll talk about this one, Chris, is the bill that's in the House, which is 6971. And this was, it was introduced in March of last year. And this is educating against misinformation and the Disinformation Act. Now, in communist Russia, this would have been called the implementation of the Propaganda Commission or the Department of Propaganda. And I do believe that our dear friend Adolf Hitler actually had a department that was very similar to this. I think it was called the Ministry, I cannot remember what, Ministry of Publicity or something along those lines. But here's what this one wants to do. It establishes another commission. Yay! Another chance
Yay,
for a
so
commission
fun.
job. Yeah, it establishes a commission to support information and media literacy education to prevent misinformation and disinformation. Here's their specific duties: implementing a national strategy to promote information and media literacy, identifying programs and resources on information and media literacy for use in elementary, secondary, higher education, and adult education programs.
So these are
Let's
really
see.
like. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
So,
Um,
so these are really like companion bills to each other. One of them is we're going to decide what information is misinformation or not, and what
Yeah.
we're going to allow on the airwaves. And then this bill is teaching people, in case some misinformation does make it past the first commission, then this
Yes.
teaches people
Yeah, teach them the correct information.
exactly.
Yes. How to identify anything we as the government don't agree with.
Mhm.
Yes.
The Department of Education, because they do such a great job,
Oh yeah, they do.
must assess the effectiveness of the commission in promoting information and media literacy education. So, and here we go. You must award competitive grants to nonprofit institutions to develop educational materials. We all know how open-minded and even balanced colleges are. So,
Oh,
Chris,
of
I know
course.
you're on board with this. Public awareness campaigns and other programs to promote information and media literacy and combat misinformation and disinformation.
So in other words, we're going to bribe you to
Yes.
indoctrinate your students and followers with what
Yes.
we
Yeah,
want.
basically.
Yes. This bill is terrifying to me, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah,
because this is literally a bill that says we as the government will decide what you learn and what you hear.
And well, not just that, how to think about what you learn and what you hear.
Yes.
I mean, this goes beyond that. It's
Yes,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
scary.
what you must think about it.
it is.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
not just what like we are getting to decide what you learn and what you hear. We also get to tell you how to think about what you
Right.
learn.
Yes,
Exactly.
what you learn and what, yeah,
horrifying.
because yes, we're educating you on media literacy, and
Exactly.
so now if by some chance something we don't approve of seeps out, where the media on a social platform, a
Yep.
voice of dissent, slips by, we're going to make sure that in your mind you go, oh no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear
It's
that.
it's like a fail safe for if the first commission has an off
Yeah.
day.
Yes,
Essentially.
exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, so this bill to me is, this is gutting the First Amendment.
Oh yeah.
And if it passes, you've still got to have time to take it to the Supreme Court, and a lot of damage can be done during that time.
Oh, yeah.
What I think the big difference is when you look at a conservative and a liberal, is the liberal is, well, we need to protect people from lies because it can be dangerous. Whereas as a conservative, we need to educate people so that they know to think for themselves.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in the idea that the government, I've had people say liberals, they like this bill, but my thing, you like it now. Would you like it if Trump was president? I don't think so. And here's the thing, I wouldn't like it if Trump was president either. It doesn't matter where this bill comes from.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
don't like it. I
Absolutely.
don't like it.
the bill's bad either way.
Yeah, and this bill is from Donald Beaver.
Donald Beaver.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing we have to remember. Whenever we have a commission,
Mhm.
the people are not choosing who gets to be
No.
on that commission. These are federal government appointees. These are the
Yep.
bureaucrats in Washington that
Yep.
whatever administration is in power is selecting this. So that's a great
Yes.
point you came up with, Terry. The narrative will change every 4 or 8
Mhm.
years, and the truth,
Yep.
what's determined as truth, will change.
Will change.
Truth doesn't
Mhm.
change. People should.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Well,
the
and you
truth
have to
doesn't
look at
change.
this.
People believe to be the truth does.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
and this controls, I mean, this is basically saying that for every congressional campaign, that if the person running against you, you can say, oh no, what they're saying is not a fact, and you can shut up your opponent. So you can have these 90-year-old people in Congress who are flipping out and don't know what's going on in there until they literally are just corpses sitting on seats because because their staff is getting paid is going, oh no, they're alive. And the campaign goes, they're dead. Oh, misinformation. So,
Actually, they identify as alive. I would need you to respect their pronouns.
yeah, they do.
Their pronouns are alive. I need you to
Yes, live. But yeah, so this is a gutting of the First Amendment in every way, and we can. And so the thing is, I'm surprised. I know this bill is not getting a lot of attention. I know it's not from the mainstream media because why would they want it? I mean, this is going to finally eliminate, any conservative competition that they have. Although they should be worried because the assumption is that the shoe will never be on the other foot,
Yeah.
and that's not true. So, yeah, I really feel like the First Amendment, this also affects, independent journalists is really, and even this podcast, it could be.
Yes.
Because if you have a commission that has findings and the findings say, who are appointed by people who believe one way, and the findings say this is a problem, then there's going to be a need to take action.
Maybe you need to have us on more often though, because right now the 2/3 of the cast here are minorities. So if they're trying to uplift minority voices, you might be able to come along for the ride.
Okay. Oh, so that's right. You're a minority this week, Chris. I forgot.
Right.
About being
Yeah. Right. See, I
I
listen, Terry. I listen.
I know sometimes, yeah. So, but no, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think this is a terrifying thing for free speech, and so again, I think we have thoroughly dispelled the myth of separation of church and state. But I also think one of the things that we've really brought home is there is nothing in the First Amendment that identifies dangerous or hateful speech as something that needs to be banned. And as a matter of fact, there was a law in Georgia, and I wish that law still existed. And it was when I think our country started to take a turn for the worse. This was back in the 1800s. Georgia had a law called fighting words. So if you showed up and you started talking about somebody's mama or wife or kids or whatever, and that person came out and beat the crap out of you, there wasn't a crime because those were fighting words. So they outlined things that were a reason you could get punched in the mouth. So they were talking about someone's mother, talking about someone's wife, just, bad mouthing them in general. And that's where you heard that them there's fighting words. So if you came out with some fighting words and you got your ass whooped, well, that was on you. Well, Georgia overturned that law, and that's when people thought, well, I can run my mouth and say what I want. I think fighting word laws would solve a lot of our problems in this country, right? So that's what I think. I think that would be better than a commission is, hey, you run your mouth and lie. Somebody may show up and punch you in the face and get away with it. But I'm not advocating violence. I don't want anybody to feel unsafe. Totally my bad. So, but yeah, I think And I think the other thing I hope we brought to light and people notice is these two bills in Congress and start writing congressmen. They're incredibly dangerous and will silence any opposition. And I understand there's some craziness out there, but that's what it means to live in a free society.
Yeah.
You have to put up with some craziness.
And
Otherwise, the government starts filtering it.
And yeah, Terry, adding on to that, I was going to say, somebody was asking me about this, and what I was saying is, I don't support hate speech laws, but some parts of the world have them because people just can't respect free speech.
Yeah, exactly.
And, even going on to that, after, reading through the Constitution, I'm just like, nowhere in the First Amendment does it say that hateful speech is something that needs to be banned. And, so many people live so chronically online where, it's like, hate speech is in violation of the rules, where they think that somehow applies to real life. I've literally sat down with a girl who thinks that hate speech is like an actual crime that you can be arrested for. Like, ma'am,
I know.
put the phone down.
Well, one of
hate
the other
speech is a part of free speech.
well to piggyback off that even more, Raven, you can oppose hate speech laws and oppose hate speech at the same time. Like it's not an endorsement of hate speech to oppose. Like,
No.
I mean, I think that's one of the biggest myths, and like a lot of the things I tell people, like I know there are some really strong anti-vaxxers on the conservative side. I'm actually kind of I wouldn't say I'm pro-vaccine, but I'm fine with the vaccine, but I'm anti-mandate.
Yep.
And like that's how I feel. It does, like, just saying that the government shouldn't step in and force people to do something isn't a condemnation necessarily of that thing. And
Right.
That's something that libs get wrong all the time with conservatives.
Yes. Well, I can't tell you how many times a week I type, disagreement is not hate. It is disagreement. If you disagree with me on something, like I may say that this is the best fried chicken in the world, and you say, no, it's not. I don't immediately go, why do you hate me? I'm just like, oh, well, you're wrong. But disagreement is not hate. And and my thing is, though, if disagreement is hate, you want to ban people who disagree with you. And I know the big argument that people, well, you can't tolerate the intolerant. And I understand that there is that whole philosophy. But if you dig into it, and you look at the counter philosophies to it, you realize that doesn't work. Because while we may all agree as a country right now, I don't like hate speech. I don't agree with hate speech. I think hating people because of their race, or because if they're part of the LGBT community, or because they're agnostic like Chris, I think it's one of the most...
Who's going to hell?
Yeah, and they're going to hell. Thank you.
Well, none of us.
With me too. I'm a Satan worshiper.
We have 3 different TikTok channels on here, all with different styles. None of us have ever used hate speech in any of our videos.
No. Well, I mean, that's your opinion.
Well, I mean, I was about to say, I've said some mean things, but I don't think it's hate speech.
But it didn't fall as hate speech. One, so all of this hating, to me, that's just ignorant. Like, you are so simple-minded that you pick a group of people and decide to hate them it's absurd and it's abhorrent, right?
Yeah.
But I also realized that while 99% of the population, if we said, we all don't like hate speech and we don't need it, and we don't tolerate it, let's ban it. Great. That's wonderful. And then a few years goes by and somebody says, I don't like third wave feminism because they're always criticizing and hating on men. And there are more men in this society than women. I don't know if that's true, but I'm using it as an example. So we want to ban that. That's hate speech. And we don't tolerate hate speech. So now the voice of feminism is banned, right? Mm-hmm. And so you've already taken 2 groups who now don't have a voice in society. And a few years go by and somebody says, you know what? We were founded on Judeo-Christian values, and it is wrong for you to criticize Christianity. And that's hate speech. So now we're going to ban that as well. And the voice of the people who can say, no, we don't want to ban that is smaller and smaller. Yes. Because all they're going to do is find, so hate speech, there's a huge group of people who don't like that and will ban it. Okay, we ban it. Now let's find the next biggest group of the population, and let's find out what they define as intolerance, and let's ban that intolerance.
Yeah.
And then let's go to the next big. And so that's why you can never start. You can never start, because it only, until the government controls every speech. And really what the government wants is they want to ban hate speech against them. They want to ban dissent. And that's how they will do it. So Yeah, but I'm with you. The first time I got on TikTok, and I've always known about free speech, and this girl said so, and I said, "Well, hate speech is not against the law." Yes, it is. Hate speech is a crime, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what world? Have I gone through a portal? Where am I?"
Are we? Yeah, are you in an alternate universe? Like, what's going
Well,
on
actually,
here?
I've noticed how many people on the left seem to think that like private businesses or institutions making policy
Yes,
is law. Because like it's true that like you may work at a company that says if you say a racial slur, you're going to get fired because that's against company policy. But a lot of I see the left conflating that with law a lot of times,
Yeah,
yes,
and it confuses me.
company policy
That's
is
not
not
law.
law.
yes.
That's
Well, and
that.
that's the other thing.
Well, really, that's company policy is the company exercising their First Amendment right.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, and that's like when people always they come at me with the Florida of, oh, Ron DeSantis is banning free speech from teachers. Yeah, I can't go into my job and stand in the middle of the floor and start screaming at people, "You're a bunch of idiots," which I often want to do,
I want
because
to do
I'm
that at
not
school sometimes, so I get it.
exactly, and but you're not allowed. So
Yeah,
jobs
can't
can
do that.
regulate what you say. Teaching is a job. It is a government job
Well, actually, if
to
you look
teach.
at
Yeah.
the actual bill that a lot of people are getting upset by in Florida, was that a teacher can't penalize a student for for um, for not using somebody's preferred pronouns.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
have a funny
So
story about that.
so that's what it
Okay.
is. So it's basically saying that like it's not saying that a student can't ask their classmates to use a different
Mm-hmm.
pronoun. It's saying the teacher can't use their disciplinary power to
Course.
enforce you respecting somebody's pronouns. It's
Mhm.
not saying it's
Yes.
not even saying that the teacher can't use the pronouns voluntarily or that student can't ask their peers. It's about using power to suppress
You can't compel speech.
Yeah.
exactly.
You
Exactly.
cannot compel speech on someone else.
Exactly.
And talking about that, I'm still not over the fact that in the beginning of my freshman year, the teacher pulled me aside and took me outside the classroom to talk to me because I told a girl that she's a human and not a Therian. Apparently, I was bullying her because I told her she's a human being.
Well, apparently somebody does use hate speech a lot, Chris.
Yep.
Wow. Rude. So I think we've dispelled some of the myths around the First Amendment. Hopefully, people will hear this and fight for it because once we lose free speech, the other rights
Yeah.
are. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of
Absolutely.
time
Everything
because
else
who's
is
going to
guaranteed.
stand up? Yeah, who's going to stand up and fight for the rest of them? You can't
100%.
say anything. They're going to start locking people up.
100%.
Um, it's scary. So the next thing, since we're sticking to conservatism and spirituality, is, and I talked a little bit about this on TikTok, is the idea of what political party would Jesus belong to. So I'm going to give you each your own guess what your opinion was, and you can even say at my time in my life I would assume he was this. Chris, I know you don't believe in him, so let's pretend you're not going to hell for 5 seconds and where you think.
Yeah.
Raven, what political party do you think Jesus would have been a member of?
Honestly, I would kind of I want to say conservative, but maybe I would I could say maybe libertarian, I guess. But if I had to pick just one of the two, I would say maybe moderate conservative.
Okay. All right, Chris, let's pretend you're not going to hell for 5 seconds.
Sure. So
Yeah.
I used to totally buy into the Jesus was a liberal socialist. Back when I was liberal, I believe, and I
Oh
actually
yeah,
shared statuses about that. It was very cringy
that
back
one.
back when I was about. I did back when I was like Raven's age at that time. And he
I keep forgetting how young
Raven,
I
stop
am.
being so mature for your age. Um,
Yeah.
so okay, but right now I actually would probably say libertarian because I think Jesus was
Okay.
about, and I made TikToks about this just last night actually. Jesus was
Mm-hmm.
about bringing the good news to people and changing their hearts and minds and showing them
Yep.
the way to salvation. It was a person to person compassionate interactions. It wasn't about using power or coercion by any kind of larger entity to do so. It was all
Yeah.
person to person. So I would say libertarian. I think he believed people had free will and that people should come to salvation on their own.
Well, you're all wrong. Jesus was a communist. I have that on good authority from a crazy person on TikTok.
Oh, guess I was wrong.
Oh,
Not a
yeah, you were.
socialist, a communist.
We
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
misinformation committee. We need you.
Yeah, we need you. Get in
Ooh.
here.
Uh, I'm trying to like give them something that they'll let me stay on. Actually, I so as I grew up studying the Bible, and I totally get your point. I think libertarian is a good choice. It's funny to me because I hear from both sides. Well, I don't know how you can be a Christian and vote Republican. I don't know how you could be a Christian and vote Democrat. Jesus would have been a Democrat. He would have been a Republican. When the truth of the matter is, he would have been neither, because Jesus had no interest in politics. And in one of the ways that we know that, and I talked about this on the TikTok I made, is Jesus had a moment, a height of popularity, where if he was on social media, he'd have gone viral. He blew up. And the disciples at the time, politics in Rome were very heated in the Holy Land. People were mad that Rome was there. They didn't like it. They wanted the Romans out. And so the disciples said, "Hey, Jesus, we've seen you do miracles. This is our land, our Holy Land. We want the Romans out. Let's lead a rebellion because we can win." And Jesus said to him, "No, my kingdom isn't of this earth." And if you look at where Jesus traveled, and in all of his sermons, at no time did he address politics in the Roman Empire. And I remember it was, I had a class I took on Jesus's travels, and it was interesting because they said that we assume Rome was so different from America, but they said if you look at Rome, they had many of the same, things. They had an LGBTQ community, right? I mean, we had emperors who were married to men, so that was going on.
Did.
And yeah, there was also, I'm sure there were abortions, but what was legal in Rome is if you had a child within the first 30 days, it was legal to leave them out in the woods to die, because Romans didn't believe that the human had a soul till after they were 30 days old. And those children were trafficked, sold into prostitution, sold into slavery, or eaten by wild animals. And yet, with that going on, and there was slavery in the Roman Empire, tons of slavery in the Roman
I know.
Empire. Yeah, but at no time did Jesus address those things. You never heard him speak to any of that. So politics, like you said, I think libertarian fits to an extent, but politics was not his thing. And Chris, you nailed it. Christianity is about a personal relationship and changing yourself, learning to become a truly compassionate person, a forgiving person, someone who sees someone in need and says, I can't pass this and not do something about it. So the idea, I think last night, Chris, the video, and I responded to it too, was the person said Jesus was a democratic socialist, is the idea that Jesus would, and look, are all Christians doing that and the church doing great? No, I'm not making that claim. But if you think Jesus would show up and go, hey, we all need to be democratic socialists because I'm going to make you take care of the poor, he absolutely would not.
Well,
because the government can't change hearts and minds.
Yes, and this same person was also saying that Jesus would have condemned capitalism, as if capitalism didn't already exist. I mean, there were people selling their goods and wares in the streets where Jesus roamed.
Yeah,
it's not that capitalism didn't exist. Yeah. I mean, they're acting like capitalism was just a phenomenon of the last 5 or 10 years, and that if Jesus said, "Oh my gosh, somebody's selling their wares, we can't have that. That's evil." So yeah, this person was still wrong on so many levels.
On all the levels. Well, and here's the thing. Again, Jesus didn't speak to that.
Yeah.
What he spoke to was not to become enamored of money. He said, the love of money is the root of all evil. And he tells parables about the difference between the wealthy man and the poor man and how they live. But at no time did he speak to how money is earned. What he spoke about was how do you treat people. And so capitalism can be ethical and corrupt. So can socialism.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go with Jesus was, again, not a member of a political party. I don't know that he would have voted. He did say render under Caesar the things that are Caesar's. So he did agree, hey, if the law says to pay your taxes, you should pay them. I'm not a big fan of that verse, but there it is. And so, we were, as Christians, supposed to be good citizens. The one thing that I think can apply from Christianity across all political parties is there has become such a sense of combativeness between people about politics. I've never experienced this. And as I said, I'm on TikTok here, so I'm as ancient as the pyramids. And in all my life, there's such a level of combativeness. So I think the one thing that I would say, if you're a Christian, or even if you're not a Christian, but you admire Jesus' teachings and beliefs, Matthew says, do not bear a grudge against anyone, but love your neighbor as yourself. And our neighbor is our fellow citizen. I don't have to hate. And again, disagreement is not
Yeah,
hate.
disagreement does not equal hate.
Right. And so you can love your neighbor and vote for somebody else. And I think part of that is politics have almost become a religion in this country. We don't
Oh
say
yeah.
I vote Republican or I vote Democrat. We say I am a
I am.
Republican.
And you know what? I think this is on the right as well. It's not just the left. I
Oh
think
no, 100%.
Oh, most definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
yeah.
100%. Both sides do it. And it's a problem because politics should not be your identity and it certainly should not be your religion. I mean, Chris, maybe yours, because again, you're an agnostic
Yeah,
going
of
to hell
course. You're
anyway.
going to
But,
hell.
you know, for.
But yeah, that's my thing, because it's like, I call myself a conservative, but it's like, there is a time, right? Believe it or not, for like all those people, watching this, I'm going to post this later. For all the people watching this, believe it or not, there is a time where I turn off the phone, I
Mhm.
exist offline, and I am not a
Mhm.
conservative. I am Raven. And there's
Yes.
so much more to me than my political beliefs. I know.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, and we define people by that's all they are. And the thing is, I'm like, there are always ways to find common ground if you can open your mind and say, hey, there are things we agree about. And we have become so combative with our neighbors, our fellow citizens, and we've allowed politics to become an identity in this country, a religion for some, and it shouldn't be. You
Yeah,
know,
like,
it's about policy.
Conservative is a descriptor. It's not an
Yes.
identity.
yes,
That's
scripter,
my
not
political ideology. It's not who I am.
Yeah.
I say, oh, I'm a conservative because that, is the vernacular, but that is not all of who I am.
exactly.
It
Yeah,
doesn't define.
there's so much more to you than your political beliefs.
Yeah. And like I go around judging Chris for going to hell. That's one of the main jobs that I have.
Of course.
That's your identity. Not
That's
I
my
honestly,
identity.
me too.
Yeah.
I go around all the time, judging Christians for not devoting their life to our overlord and destroyer, Lucifer. But that's just me.
Everybody needs a purpose. So,
Mhm.
all right. I think that we have dispelled separation of church and state. I feel like we've dispelled that Jesus would have been in any political party. I mean, you two are entitled to be wrong, but this is my show, so we're going to go with that. He wasn't. So I think the next thing, and really the point of the show, that I want to get to is I want to talk about how conservative, there is, like I said at the beginning, there's that idea that conservatism is for white Christians and nobody else. And that's it. And I don't know why you guys are saying that. I don't appreciate you being in my, political party, but whatever.
Mhm.
And so one of the things though, I often hear is I don't think people really know what conservatism is, right? I think the media has defined it as certain things.
Oh yeah, I have something
And
to say about that. Yeah, because
because
it's so funny. Because it's like basically, like real quick, you can get back to what you're saying in a second. It was so funny to me because basically, like I said, both my sisters, I love them to death, but oh my god, they're the most liberal women you will ever meet. And it's like my oldest sister, she was telling me like she believes that if you're black or if you're part of the LGBT community or a person of color, you have no business being a conservative. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's an interesting opinion. Define all the core conservative values. And then she was basically, saying they hate black people. Like, no, I didn't ask you what people with those beliefs hate. I asked you what do they believe in, and she couldn't do it. She did not know.
no. As a matter of fact, I want to ask you guys because you were both former hardcore lefties. So
Liberal
Raven,
Democrat.
yes.
Former.
What did you think? Well, we're glad you recovered. What did you think when you were a liberal Democrat? What did you think conservatism was? Like, if somebody said, "What's a conservative belief?" or what was it? What would you have said?
Well, it's like, oh my god, I thank God nobody asked me that because, oh my god, I would not have had an answer, like not a good answer.
Really?
Like, yeah, judging by what I had been told by like my sisters and my mom, who once again love to death, but literally the most liberal women you'll ever meet. But if I had to like define it based off of like what my beliefs were at the time, I would probably say like conservatism is okay. You know what? Before I give my definition, please promise you won't laugh. Okay, you can laugh a little bit, but okay, I would have said that. Oh my god, why do I have to say this? Okay, I would have said. I don't want to say. Okay, I'll say it. I would have said that conservatism is this belief that is rooted in white supremacy that uplifts. Okay, I told you not to laugh. Leave me alone.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That uplifts white people at the expense of minorities. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
I mean,
But
as a white supremacist, that's pretty much how I feel.
That's why you became a conservative, Chris, right? You were like, oh, there's a whole party that uplifts
Oh
me.
my god.
No, I actually have. I have an answer that's pretty funny too. You can laugh at mine.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
if you're done, I don't want to talk over
Oh
you.
no, you can go.
Okay, so
He nailed it. I mean, that's
so there's a piece of it that I had right even before, and that was
okay.
it was conserving values of the past, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt that the values that they wanted to conserve were from the 1800s and earlier. I didn't get that so many of those values were applicable to what makes society work today. And I think that's the
Right.
thing. I think that's the thing that I realized, that good family values, respecting people around you, free speech, and things like that have become conservative values, and that benefits society today. Personal responsibility, smaller government benefits society today. But I would have said to you that it's conserving the way the world was exactly in 1850. I think that's what I would have said.
When slavery was
Actually,
allowed.
it wasn't even about. I wasn't even thinking through the lens of race and slavery. I was thinking through the lens of
Mhm.
more of.
We're a very good liberal.
Very.
No,
Oh
I
my
was
God,
actually more
you
thinking about. I hate to say it. I was thinking about the patriarchy when women couldn't vote.
okay. Okay. Hold on, I need to get my sisters in here. You believed in a patriarchy. They'll love
You can
you.
laugh. You can laugh at that. I actually, yeah. So I would have thought that it was conserving the time before any oppressed groups really got rights.
Okay. So just continue depression.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the benefit
Okay. Yeah. That's
of
and you
that.
know what? That's what I get a lot of. And I was raised in a conservative home. When I went to college, and about that age, I started to question some things. Which I questioned my religion. I was a little agnostic for a while, and I for very briefly was like, I'm a Democrat. I believe in helping people, and I got a job working at a place of government programs that help drug addicts and homeless people, and I saw the policies and actions. It was like, yeah, this is not for me. Because this is absurd. And so I flirted with it. But again, I didn't really understand Democratic policy, but I got to learn some of it firsthand. I was like, I don't care for it. So
Well,
let's find out. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna. I think there's something interesting to be said from that. Whenever you see, I know you guys see like, or we all see commercials of the great work that private charities like St. Jude's and other types of organizations
Mm-hmm.
do. Those are not government programs. Those are private, donor funded institutions that actually literally can change people's lives completely.
Yes.
And there is
Yeah.
no government program
Mm-mm.
that can affect that amount of change in an
Yeah.
individual's life. It would cost too much, and the money would get distributed a few cents at a time across all
Mhm.
300 million people. You would never be able to see the change and the uplifting that
Mhm.
you see by private charity.
Mhm.
Private charities always perform
And
better than any government
Absolutely.
program.
And yeah, Terry, adding on to what you were saying about like, why you at one point just thought, you were a Democrat. It's like, I guess it's like what pushed me towards, socialist ideology to begin with. Like back when I was like a liberal Democrat, is, not only, constant indoctrination from, my liberal friends and family who were telling me about how bad capitalism was, but also because, I come from a pretty, well off, upper middle class family. And, I have plenty of friends who are not as fortunate, and some of which quite literally live in what is considered, the ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
So, seeing people who, suffered so much, who were not, as fortunate to be born into, a family that was as well off as mine, really made me feel for those people. And, it really did not help at all, and, push back against socialist ideology, because I was like, oh, wow, a perfect society where everyone's equal and nobody has to suffer. That sounds perfect. Why
Where
is
we all get to
anybody
be
against
poor? Yes.
By the way,
it?
Raven, shame on you for all your white privilege.
Oh
Yes.
yeah! Oh my God, Terry, that's so funny to me, because people were telling me about how I'm oppressed because I'm black, and I'm like, really? I was raised away. I like not to like brag or like like do any of that, but it's like I was raised so much better than most people, regardless of race. Like
Race,
in
yeah.
terms of wealth, like my parents are wealthier than a lot of people's parents, regardless of race. Tell me again about how I'm oppressed, and then they go from, oh well, you're oppressed, to, you know what, actually. you're privileged, and I'm going to explain why. And your parents, let me explain. Okay, your parents are actually leeching off of other people's white privilege, and they just don't know it. Now, let me explain how, despite being black, you're experiencing white privilege.
So it's actually so in their mind, shows how topsy turvy things are. They're viewing it as a negative thing for a minority
Mhm.
to do well, to be raised
Mhm.
well.
Yes.
That's not
Apparently,
what
if my
thing.
parents
Well,
were
You
they're
have to shame
to
them
do
leeching
for
well,
it.
off
they're
of,
getting white privilege, even though they're not white. Neither of them.
yeah. Well,
Well, my mom's halfway. Yeah, whatever.
the truth comes out
Oh,
now.
there you
Okay.
go.
Mhm.
Oh, there we go.
She's got some of that bad juju.
Yeah, now we know where they got
Oh
all their
yeah.
money from. They
Of
got a
course.
quarter
Oh
of the
yeah,
white
my
privilege money.
Aryan grandfather who looks
There
like
you
does not look related to me.
No, I think and it's funny to me because when people talk about, they just talk about how much we hate people, and I'm like, I don't really hate anybody. I mean, I hate the Denver Broncos because they cost me a bet one time for $1,500, but I mean, I don't even remember their names. It was just a general team, and
Mhm.
and also this may upset you, Chris. I don't know. I hate the Patriots, so there you go. But
Mhm.
outside of that, I don't really hate anybody, and I just
Oh, of course.
don't watch football when they're on. So what is conservatism? And you know what, Chris, you were not far off because it talks about that it is more about is a preference for the historically inherited rather than the abstract and ideal. And I read that line, and I was like, holy crap, that is
Yeah.
so dead
Well,
on.
I look at it
I
as
think,
it's preserving or conserving what's good
yep,
and rejecting change that's bad. It's not rejecting all
Of course.
change or saying that we can't have any
Absolutely.
yeah,
progress, but it's making common sense progress that actually
mm-hmm.
helps people and not throwing away what's already working. To me, that's
Right.
what
And
it
this,
is.
and again, you're dead on. It says conservatism favors institutions and practices that have slowly evolved and gradually manifested the changes needed in society through continuity.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's it. And then the other thing it talks about, government's responsibility is to be a servant, not a master, of the existing ways of life, and politicians must therefore resist the temptation to transform society and politics. And it also talks that conservatives tend to be extremely suspicious of government activism, which is
Mhm.
100%
Yeah.
true. And I think, like you said, that the ideal society is not something you can make because,
Mhm.
again, you cannot change hearts and
We
minds.
try to
And
we try to work towards a more perfect union. We don't bulldoze the
exactly.
union we have and try to build the perfect
Yes.
union today. We try to work
Hmm.
towards it.
Mhm.
Yes. And so to me, what I think is funny is, and there's a book, and I'll have to remember the name of it, that talked about that there was a switch, not a party switch, not a party switch,
Not a party
uh,
switch, y'all.
not a party switch. Um, but there was a time so that when Lincoln and the Republicans were founded, they were considered classical liberals. And around the turn of the century, um, there started to be a change in the language, kind of like we see now, a change in the language where they started to be called conservatives, and conservatism started to be, viewed as negative, and liberalism was redefined, and so those titles kind of switched, even though the philosophies didn't change. So here's classical liberalism is a political tradition that believes in free market, laissez-faire economics, civil liberties, and the rule of law. It supports freedom of speech and
There's
avoids
a big one.
social policies, avoids large government and heavy taxation. So if you look at the two, to me, I think they line up that classical liberalism and modern day
Yeah,
Yeah.
modern
conservatism.
day
Well, I
conservatism and classical liberalism sound one and the same.
I've been saying
Yes,
I've been saying for a while now that as a conservative, I'm more liberal than today's leftists.
yes, because there is that we don't control society. Society will grow on its own. People will. That was one guy told me. He said the reason that Southerners vote for Republicans is because they're all still racist. I'm like, since 1964. I mean,
Yeah.
you think nobody? And so this idea that and here's the thing: you can pass all the laws you want, telling people you can't be racist. They will still be racist. They may not say it. They may not act it where you can see, but in their heart and mind, they will still hate minorities.
Yeah.
Government
Joe Biden.
cannot change those things. Progress can.
Yeah.
Education can,
Mm-hmm.
but government can't. But
Because
I did
racism
find
is in fact a learned behavior.
it is, and it can be unlearned. So I did find this one quote that I absolutely love because I think both parties have, their issues. It says, let's see, defined conservatives as a statesman who is enamored of existing evils, a distinguished liberal who is someone who wishes to replace them with new evils. So, I think,
That's interesting.
yeah. So I think that, again, conservatives, we can't change society. Society, we have to educate and we have to grow and we have to learn. Whereas I think liberals are, hey, let's go ahead and change this and make people do it. And you can't. And people, we're seeing this now with some of the push we have with the things going into schools, and that society will buck that push to make people accept things that they don't want to.
Yeah.
That is the nature of humankind. So, with that being, do you guys agree with that? I mean, is that your philosophy on conservatism? Because I feel like conservatism allows for some different leeway on what you actually believe, as long
Mhm.
as you are at the core of freedom and not trying to create a great society and letting society develop.
Go ahead, Raven.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, yeah, honestly, that's my kind of like my philosophy in conservatism. I feel like, that it's actually, a spectrum. That's a word.
Yeah.
A spectrum of, as long as you believe in, freedom at its core, we kind of allow for a spectrum of
Mhm.
beliefs. Like, for
Yeah,
example, like
not
me
genders.
and
If you're just tuning in, not gender.
not genders. Not
Not
genders.
just-
Wanted to make sure.
Yeah, me, like, for example, me and Terry, we're both pro-life, and then you are, pro-choice. But, despite our difference in opinion on abortion, we all believe in freedom at its core.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one of the things that I've talked about with Terry before offline is that I'm pro-choice early in the pregnancy, but I am anti-abortion in the sense that I want to see less abortions, and I think we want to change people's hearts and minds so that abortion is only the very even if it happens early, it's the last resort of last resorts. And we want to have the support in place to foster a culture of life, even if abortion remains legal. So, in that sense, I would say we all have the same value about
Oh,
how
of
we
course.
feel about abortion.
Mhm.
I just have a difference in legality early in the pregnancy. So
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's where you can see the conservative tent will accommodate different
Mhm.
policy positions if the conservative value of life is better than not life, and yeah, essentially what you,
And I think that's it. At the core of the
Yeah.
agreement is human life is intrinsically valuable,
Hmm.
right? It's
Yeah.
that culture of life
Mhm.
that matters.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have to be like human plus something else. All you have to be is human, and that's enough. Life in itself is inherently valuable, and as long
Right.
as we can agree on that, even if we have differences and opinions on the policies regarding that life, or how we go about protecting that life, or educating people on how to see value in that life, we still agree
Mhm.
that life is inherently valuable.
Right.
absolutely.
And that yes, and that is, I think that's one of the things that is becoming a fight in our society is either we are going to become a culture of life that protects life and values life, or we're becoming a culture of death in that we don't value life and it's not important, and we don't feel the need to protect it. But conservatism is because of freedom, and because society evolves and human beings need to be involved in that, immediately values humans, not humans of a particular kind, just humans.
Just human
And
beings, yeah.
even even being that I am pro-choice early in pregnancy, I was a big proponent of Roe being overturned because I think
Yeah.
without it going back to the states, my vision would be to see conservatives in purple and even in blue states put together really good arguments for life in those states
Hmm.
so that you could get
Yeah.
Yes.
even if you never get an abortion ban in Connecticut or New York, you get that window moved back to 8 weeks or so rather than it being at 24. So I think that's what you can see if you see
Hmm.
conservatives communicating in a good way to those who
Yes.
disagree in those states. That's what I'd like to see.
I don't think we can win. I don't think conservatives can win the argument on abortion simply arguing legalities. To me, this is a heart and mind change,
Absolutely.
right? It's
Yes.
the difference. It's how,
It's
for
not.
people who are open to it, and some people will never change their mind, and that's okay. But it's the approach of human life is valuable, and when we start to devalue it, we, oh well, we only devalue it here, but not here. That's that again. It's like free speech. All you got to do is start and so I think it's not a legality argument. I don't think that you'll ever win on that. I think that the only way you could lessen abortion is to push the idea that life is intrinsically valued, that human life is unique and
Mhm.
important and valuable and should be protected.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, of
I don't
course.
and I think the problem is conservatives have gotten caught up in the legality of it, and that's not something you're going
Mhm.
to win.
Yeah, and
It's
they
just
haven't
not.
gotten like, and they haven't paid as much attention to the more morality side of it, because
Right.
if you just focus on legality and you take away people's ability to do something that harms or intentionally
Mhm.
ends human beings' lives, that's not going to stop them from doing that, because it hasn't changed how they view those human lives. They still view them
Right.
as that
Well, actually,
valuable.
one of the
Yeah.
things, and I think one of the call outs that I have of our own side on this issue is I see a lot of times when you see the abortion argument playing out in social media or wherever, um, whenever leftists ask, well, what about the woman facing the unplanned pregnancy? A lot of times, what you hear from conservatives is a kind of very flippant, well, you made your bed, you lie in it. Now, I think while that's
Yeah.
a true principle,
Mhm.
that's not going to change somebody's mind
Mhm.
about abortion. It's going to
Yeah.
make them say, see, well, you don't really give a shit about the woman. That's what it makes them feel
Yeah.
like. So I think
Yes.
fostering
Yes.
a culture of life is also fostering um, a culture of being a little bit less judgmental of a woman who finds
Mhm.
herself with an unplanned pregnancy, because the more you alienate that woman,
Mhm.
the less
Yes.
likely you are to win her heart.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
be more
and
empathetic, so to
Right,
speak.
yes,
because
empathy is a
again, because if a lot of people are coming, I know Tara, you say you're pro-life not because of religion, but a lot of people are coming at it from religion,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
religion
Oh
is
yeah,
also
that's
about
like.
forgiveness. So
Mhm.
if you're just gonna condemn somebody for finding themselves in that situation, then you're not fostering what you need to foster.
And yeah, that's the thing. I don't necessarily so many people, approach the abortion argument, from a religious perspective,
Yeah.
because Tara, pro life McGee.
Yes.
It's similar. Like me and him have it in common. We both have religious beliefs, so to speak. Although they are
Mhm.
different because he's Christian, I'm pagan. But it's like the same thing with him that I have. Is I tell people, it's not my pagan beliefs that
Yeah.
tell me that a human that life begins at the moment of conception. That's science. It's my pagan beliefs
Mhm.
that tell me that human life is inherently valuable.
Right.
Same
Oh, it
thing with
has. Yeah.
Christians.
Yeah, and that's what people are always like. You believe that because you're a Christian. Actually, I don't. And I know a lot of Christians will disagree with me, but under the idea that God is going to judge me for my actions, I actually don't think abortion is. God's going to talk to them. Like I'm not going to die and stand in judgment, which is what Christian and God go.
Mhm.
Terry, why'd you let Peggy get an abortion? He's not going to ask me that, right? So that's Peggy's decision, and if when she stands before God, my issue is that to me, this is a value of life argument. And what disturbs me about any value of life argument is that is the argument that Nazis used to start purifying their country.
Mhm.
And so when you start with the idea that one life is more valuable than the other, you are literally selling the exact same propaganda that allowed the Nazis to clean out mental hospitals, orphanages. I mean, that was their argument. These kids in
Of
orphanages,
course.
nobody wants them. They don't contribute anything. They're a drain on society. Let's take them down and gas them.
Mhm.
Right?
And yeah, that's like what I tell people about slavery too. Because people will always get so pressed at me and say, "Oh my God, you're extremist because you're comparing abortion to slavery." Because I'm like, what happened in slavery is essentially the same thing that happened in abortion. Essentially, what they were saying is, in order to be human and have inherent value as a human being, you need to be human plus something else. You can't,
Right.
being human is just not enough.
It's
Because
not.
even those slaves, not exclusively black people, I did watch your podcast. The slaves, they were considered three-fifths of a person. That simply being human was not enough.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they had to be human plus something else, which they had to fall into the free category. You had to be human plus fall into that free category in
Mm-hmm.
order to be seen as valuable. In order to have feelings, because apparently slaves didn't have feelings.
No.
And so yeah, no, the same thing is happening with like abortion. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
dehumanizing it. It's a clump of cells. Yeah, okay, well, all multicellular organisms are a clump of cells.
I'm a clump of cells. You're a clump
Mhm.
of cells. I don't know if you look everywhere I go. There are some people I look and think, "Wow, you're just a clump of cells." So,
Yeah, I think that sometimes too.
By the
Yeah,
way,
I
Raven,
don't
even
know if
other
you
I
guys.
just
Christians out
want to
there
tell
just
you.
like, oh, it doesn't have feelings, it can't feel pain. Oh, okay, so not having feelings and not being able to feel pain justifies violently ending someone's life. I'll keep that in mind for what is it? How many people, like 32 or something, that have that condition where they can't feel pain? I'll keep that in mind.
By the way,
Yeah.
Raven, I just want to tell you that the way you framed that really moved me.
Oh.
Oh,
No,
really?
I hadn't thought about that. The way you phrased that, human plus
Mm.
something else, I hadn't thought of that before. So I thank you.
Yeah, because essentially,
Wow.
like in the abortion thing, what they're saying is, you have to be human plus this far along. That's
Yeah.
age-based discrimination.
And
Like
because
I'm,
Yeah.
and because I'm a conservative, I'm gonna go bomb an abortion clinic now because you. Oh, I
Okay.
shouldn't
Oh.
say that. I'm sorry.
oh,
That's a
of
joke.
course,
Speech.
of course,
I'm
of course.
I'm saying that.
Speech. Dangerous speech. You're inciting violence, Raven. Shut up. Shut.
Okay,
No, but really, in reality, that planted some seeds in my head to think
Mhm.
about. Thank you for that.
oh,
Yeah.
of course.
It's no, it's an excellent point. And again, like I said, it's that human plus something else. And it was a pivotal moment in my life. I remember A&E had restored some, this was back when A&E was a decent channel, had found and restored some Nazi propaganda films, and they did a showing with commentary. And I just remember the constant argument was, well, they're not really human because, and it was they had a mental illness, or they had been injured in World War I, or they were orphans, or, and to the point, and they just started very slowly saying, well, this person's in a coma and they don't know what's going on, so they're not contributing anything. I mean, would you want to live this way? No, of course not. So let's go ahead and help them out and put them to sleep. And then they continued to the point where they were actually bringing in children who had parents and testing them, and if you didn't pass the IQ test and the physical um, ability test, they killed you. And so, to me, the idea that you would ever, so my thing is, let's not argue the value of human life, because then we don't ever have to start having a scale of human life. Because I don't want to live in a world where we're busing children around and, gassing them because they colored outside the lines or they walk with a cane. And that is and then it moved to adults. And what most people don't know, all of that happened before they ever went to the Jews. Germany started cleansing its own people
Oh
first.
yeah, they did.
And so by the time you get people and they eased into it. So think about it. By the time you get people to accept that their own children should be removed, how easy is it to go after their neighbor and remove them?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, and so my thing, it's not about Christianity to me. This is something that, looking back, is exactly what you see Nazism do, to purify its society. And as we become more dependent on government and it becomes more expensive, it will make more sense to have those arguments, because we can't afford to take care of everybody. So where do we start, removing that population? And so I think abortion is just an easy end, because it's not a human you can see. And, you can argue it's a clump of cells. But to me, it is such a dangerous argument. And so, that's where I come from. So I think we've talked about, but is there anything you want to add about, as somebody who is a pagan or an agnostic who's going straight to hell, is there something conservative that appeals to you? Because, like I said, everybody thinks it's white Christians. Other than what you've already said, is there anything, before we move on and do Raven's interview, that you're like, this is what appeals to me, and fits with my spiritual beliefs?
Oh, of course, because there are like two things I believe in spiritually as a pagan. Firstly, that all human life is valuable, and secondly, that everyone is equal. Nobody is inherently better than anyone else for any reason. We're all equal. So,
Mm-hmm.
seeing so many people on the left, in regards to my belief that everyone's equal, say that they care about uplifting minorities, uplifting women, but are so quick to put women down or put down minorities who don't fall in line with their ideology. I'm like, oh, okay, so you don't really care about minorities. You're fascist. You only care about minorities if they say what you want to hear.
They're
And
putting a commission in place so that they know
Mhm.
what to say. I mean, how much more help can they give?
Hmm. And even outside of that, in regards to my beliefs about life being inherently valuable, and this isn't even like a conservative thing necessarily. It's more so a pro-life thing, because I know Democrats and liberals can be pro-life as well. I'm just kind of like, well, I believe that all human life is inherently valuable, and just go ahead and cherry pick which humans are less valuable than others based solely on the fact that they're at a certain stage in development. That's age-based discrimination, and that's direct opposition to what I believe in, is not only someone who believes in equality, but somebody who believes that all life is inherently valuable, and somebody shouldn't have to be human plus something else just to be considered on the same playing field as the rest of us. So
So,
that those are like two things majorly that speak to my pagan beliefs.
do you? And I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
because I haven't been over, or and I haven't experienced that they are, but is there tolerance in the Democrat Party or in the liberal side for pro-life people?
No, there were.
Okay.
Well, I'll just say there was
Okay.
a women's march.
I'm sorry, real quick. I like excuse my French. My sisters absolutely lost their shit, but I told them I'm against abortion.
Well,
Okay.
I'll just say
Okay.
there were all these women's marches where there were women who said they were hardcore feminists but who were pro-life, and they were told they cannot march in the
Mhm.
women's march.
Oh, but also real quick, let me add on to that. Like I said,
Yeah.
take what I said with a pinch of, with like a grain of salt. That's anecdotal evidence in my personal experience. I don't know. Maybe someone else watching this knows Democrats who are
Okay.
tolerant of pro-lifers, but in my personal experience, no,
And Chris,
absolutely.
you
I
would
think on
you
average the answer would be no. I agree.
okay. And it's funny to me because feminism is about women having the right to choose what they believe and express, and thought it was about
Oh yeah,
empowering
also
us to have a voice.
first
And
wave
now
feminists
it's
were
no.
actually sorry, first wave feminists were actually pro-life. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add that.
Yes.
First wave
Yeah.
feminists were actually pro-life. For all those people
Yeah.
saying you can't be feminist and pro-life, well, the literal original feminists were pro-life.
Yeah.
So
Well, and again, feminism is about giving women a voice in society, and you're literally saying, if you agree with us, you can have a voice in society.
and if you disagree with us, you don't get a voice. You're literally not allowing
Now,
women to speak.
we're
Hmm.
putting together a commission. So we're
Of
gonna
course.
yeah. How about you, Chris? Is there anything? I know you also came over from the left to the right, but is as an agnostic and conservatism so tied to Christianity, do you find that to be in conflict in any way,
No,
or
because
are you like this
I was
works?
waiting for an opportunity to say this actually. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, as an agnostic, I don't know if there's a God, but
Mm-hmm.
I think people act better when they believe there is one.
Hmm.
And
I would.
there's part of me that even as an agnostic, I try to live a godly life as if there's a God, even though I don't know if there is one. Because I think
That makes sense.
because I think it prevents me. It's something that is, I have my own moral code too, but I also think that I'm dissuaded from believing or doing certain things that are bad because of that what if there is a God? What if there's a God,
Mm.
and I don't want to be you know judged at the end, um,
Right.
if I've lived as, I mean, I know the tenet of Christianity is you have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior to go to heaven.
Hmm.
But I think if everybody lived as if there was a God, we have a
Right.
peaceful, loving society. And so that's really where I'm coming from. And I think conservatism, it's not so much you have to believe in God, but it's live a godly, good life, whether
Right.
you have a belief in God or not. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that, as an agnostic, I can totally get on board with. Yep.
Hmm.
All right, Raven, are you ready to be grilled? Chris, I want you to dig deep with that white supremacy follow-up
I'll
questions
get my
here.
shovel
And really, okay.
and my white bed sheets too.
Okay, yeah, put on your hood. All right,
Makes the
so,
Democrats proud.
all right, Raven, first question is, when did you start on TikTok and what prompted you to get on the platform?
Oh, okay. So I kind of started on TikTok, like actually kind of at the start of the summer, simply because, outside of my summer job, I didn't really have much to do. I was just kind of bored in the house for hours. So I just kind of, got on TikTok, and I would post little silly videos. I'm sure you saw them, with that audio. And just like that, you've been blocked. Those are like my first ever videos. And I wasn't even serious or trying to be persuasive or interested in being a content creator. It was just kind of something I did in my spare time when I was bored. I would post like
Mhm.
silly little conservative themed videos, and I would get hate for them, obviously, because it's TikTok. It did not reach the right audience, pun fucking intended. But and it's funny because I got hate from everyone. I got hate from other black people. I got hate from liberals, Democrats. I even got hate from the people always tell me that I'm pandering to white supremacists. There was a guy in my comments called Proud White American with a Klan member as his profile picture, and that guy literally harassed me for days on end. Like, that's the actual white supremacist y'all claim that I'm pandering to, and not even he liked me. So
Yeah.
make that make
Chris,
sense.
do you feel like you're being pandered to?
Well, I was
Let's
actually going to say, Raven, how dare you read my other account username out loud?
Oh my god, that was you.
That was
Proud White American.
damn. I'm
Y'all,
discovering.
right here. Proud White American.
Now we know.
Also, I think that guy followed Jay. Like, that guy followed Jay. And that dude had been like harassing me for so long. I don't see him in my comments anymore, probably because my original account got banned.
I think this guy might have, when I made a video about something about leftists being racist, I think it might have been the same guy. He commented in one of my videos and said, well, usually us white nationalists actually do respect Asians. Because they're intelligent.
I'm so flattered.
Well, actually, you know what? And you know what's interesting? He was praising me, and then I said, "Well, I believe racism is racism, and racism is wrong, whether it's against Asians or not." And then he said I was pandering and I was wrong about everything, and then he was being rude to me after that.
That guy kind of came as a shock to me, because although I never really took the comment seriously, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but actually make myself like sit down and read his, because his were something.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, this guy, there wasn't a single other conservative in any of my threads all the conservatives in my comments hammered this guy relentlessly and called him a racist. So for leftists that say conservatives don't call out racist is totally incorrect. Like, literally, this guy,
no. Well, like, I actually started, like, once that one video I posted like blew up and got like thousands of views, and like people started like coming in, and I was like, oh my god, Mom, I'm famous. That happened. Even these people saw this dude, like Proud White American, and they're like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm like, they were conservatives. I didn't see one Democrat come to my defense. Not one.
Well, you don't agree with them, but no, I've never. If somebody comes into, and I'll do it. It very much annoys me when people do that. Oh, you're pandering to white people, or you're this. I'm like, who are you to tell somebody what they can and can't think?
It's like, even on top of that, it's like, oh wow, insinuating that the only possible way a black man can think that way is if he wants positive attention from white people. You should wear your hood when you say that. Just racist much? Oh my god.
That's mine. I'm always like, racist much? Okay, so what is one place everyone should visit? Now, this can be a place that you've been or a place you want to go to, but what is one place that everyone should visit?
Honestly, this isn't really like not in like a good way. I'll answer like in the good way in a second, but like just for like all those like former friends of mine who were so anti-capitalist and just so pro-communist and pro-socialist. You know what I think? No, even for these women, like even those who weren't like pro-communist or socialist, but you think America is a patriarchy and women are oppressed in this country, I challenge you, go to like Iran, go to Afghanistan.
Oh, that would not work out well.
Yeah, just go there and maybe just spend like a couple of days, not even like a whole week, just a couple of days. See how that goes. And, for all these people who believe in like communist and socialism is so good and in our anti-capitalist, just like spend like a week, maybe two, like in an actual capitalist society. Just see how that goes.
Well,
if that works for you, then go ahead. You can take your ass over
Then
there.
stay there. Yeah.
the thing I like,
I've been to China.
Gotta say, you can be all pro-communist and go over there and be oppressed all you want, but what you're not gonna do is turn this beautiful country into that. Thank you.
The thing I was gonna say was, if you really want to live in a country that's pure socialist or communist, the little BLM and Pride stickers that you sell on Etsy, you wouldn't be able to do that
You would not.
in a communist country.
No. You would. But the good news is, in a communist country, nobody's lives matter. So it is even. It's not if you're. Okay, you ready for question number 3, Raven? Okay. Why are you the way you are politically? So
politically, I was about to say, why am I the way that I am? I was about to say, well, you see, Terry, when two people love each other very, very much.
And the woman goes to the sperm bank because we don't need men anymore.
Oh, of course. No. When she makes a bone marrow baby because we don't need
Oh,
anything from men anymore.
I cannot with the bone marrow. I cannot with the bone marrow.
Oh my god. But talking about that, completely off topic to why I'm like the way I am politically, it's so funny because it's like, like people say like, racial preferences are racist.
Mm-hmm.
It is so funny because my mom straight up told me, like, she doesn't know how to explain it. She is not attracted to white men. Like, she doesn't know what it is. She is not attracted to white men or Asians. Yeah, sorry, Chris.
Oh.
But she's not attracted to white men or Asians. She does not know what it is. Like, they just do not turn her on. She does not know what it is. She only likes black men and Hispanics, which is ironic because me and my sisters, we only like blacks and Hispanics. Whites and Asians. So,
Wow.
we don't like blacks or Hispanics. So,
Raven, I was gonna ask if your mom was available, but now I won't.
That's fine. I am. I like Asians. But yeah, literally, the two things I'm attracted to are whites and Asians. It's the two things my mom just does not like. And I'm like, am I really your kid? I don't know if I believe that. Like, I'm attracted to two things you don't like. Me, my sisters too. Like, we all like whites and Asians. And my mom's like, y'all can't be my kids because I don't like either of them.
But it's a recessive gene, I guess. I don't know. So how did you had a red pill moment? What was your red pill moment?
Oh, there are a lot of those. Would you like me to like tie it to like one where I'm just like, wow, okay.
Yeah, maybe the last one where it was like this did it for me.
Yeah, so what really did it for me was like, so basically, I used to be like really like pro BLM. Yeah, those.
Did you do a black square on Instagram?
You know what? I am so proud of this because no matter how woke I was, I never did a black square.
Raven, same. I was literally had this exact same exchange with Terry last time. That was the one thing I didn't do.
Disappointment.
I may have been woke. I may have believed in a patriarchy. I may have believed in whites in like systematic oppression of black people, but I never did a black square.
I just didn't think it was productive. I just viewed it as unproductive, even then.
Yeah, I just thought that was stupid. I'm like, I'm not doing that. What's that gonna do?
Wow, even racist before you were conservative. All right. Yep. So what was your red pill moment?
Yeah, my red pill moment was it's like I was looking into Black Lives Matter stuff, right? And I'm kind of like scrolling YouTube Shorts. I managed to like see one. Like I kind of like have that bad habit of getting sidetracked. So I started watching YouTube Shorts or watching Black Lives Matter videos, and I was like scrolling through the shorts, and I found this one video. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was like a black woman calling like BLM racists for being like hypocrites because when black people kill other black people, they don't come out and like riot or whatever. I don't know if you guys have seen that video.
Yeah, I've seen similar videos, yes.
But yeah, I saw it and I was like, wait, really? So, I go on Google, I look this stuff up, and I'm like, oh my god, black on black crime is the most common form of violent crime. I didn't even know this. Like, why aren't people talking about this? So I decided to make a Facebook post about it. And then, I was like, oh, I wasn't even being rude or anything. I wasn't putting down black people or anything. I was just like, oh my god, this is a really big issue. Why aren't we focusing on this issue that plagues our own communities instead of issues, outside of it? I really feel like we should focus on issues inside of our own community instead of ones outside of it before, we go around talking about, all these issues that affect us outside of the community. And then I posted that. And then, it's like, how do you think people reacted? Do you think people were like, oh my god, I didn't even know this. We should bring more attention to this. Do you think that's how people reacted?
I feel like that's not the reaction.
No, I woke up and I had 30 notifications from Facebook, and I was like, oh my god, I've never gotten this many before. So then I look at this, and it's kids from school. Oh my god, kids from school saw this, and they were messaging me, and they're like, why would you post something like that? What are you? Do you hate your own race? Are you a Trump supporter now? I don't even know, or I don't even remember where. I don't even know where she got that from. She was like, what are you, a Trump supporter now? And even on top of that, she's like, oh my god, why do you hate your own race? Why would you post something like that?
So if only the commission had been in place. If only the commission had been in place.
That's actually a compliment to Trump supporters. They're saying that being aware of true facts and true data equals being a Trump supporter.
And can I tell you, this is so sad, because this was one of my good friends, but she blocked me and no longer speaks to me. But basically, the worst part is this isn't even what red pilled me. It was seeing how they reacted afterwards when I responded to them, because I was basically just I was like, no, I love my own people. I don't hate black people. I just didn't realize how big of an issue this was. I feel like this needs to be talked about more. And then this girl straight up denied that it's a thing. She's like, no, it's not a thing. White people kill black people way more than black people kill black people. Stop spreading lies and feeding into white supremacy and pushing your anti-black agenda. I don't know why you would do this, especially when you're black yourself. And then like, 'cause I'm sorry, I have hyperlexia. I hate that I remember what I read so vividly.
No, you're
But
fine.
like right after, like I go to the website and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show her this. So I send it to her. She reads it, and then she goes from denying that it's a thing to, and I'm not even joking. She goes from denying that it's a thing to, let me tell you why it's actually white people's fault that black people kill other black people. And
So it's
how
not happening,
uh,
and if it is happening, it's still racism.
it's a white people's fault, and how white people should be accountable for doing something about it instead of black people. So then I was just sitting here in shock, like, wow. And not only that, but on top of that, she was telling me that I should delete it because it makes me look stupid, and she just hopes that my future employer doesn't see it and see how badly I think about my own race. So then I
But
was just like, wow, okay, so let's like reading back over it, I was just like, okay, so you denied that something was an issue. Then once I showed you undeniable proof that it was, you went from, let me tell you why it's actually someone else's fault.
mm-hmm.
And then when I suggested ways that we could fix it, you said that it's not our responsibility because it's not our fault. And on top of that, you basically tried to silence me by telling me that it makes me look stupid, basically trying to bully me into silence. So what I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting from this is, A, these people are narcissists because, they want to talk about all the other issues that are caused by somebody else. But,
Mm-hmm.
the second that an issue is actually caused within their own community, they don't want to talk about it. They want to blame everyone else for it. And
Yeah.
B, they don't actually care about uplifting black voices. They only care about uplifting black voices who agree with them. So they're fascists.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
then I'm just like, okay, maybe I'm not on the right side of history if these are the people I'm siding with.
Maybe I need to do a little research. No, I mean that because I not with I couldn't serve it, but I remember I've gotten online and talked to liberals, and I'm like, and I'll say something. Well, that's not true, and I think, well, I'll provide proof, and that'll be the end of, and then it never is. So I get it.
And
Let's see.
even I don't even know if you want to hear like other red moment
No, go ahead.
like briefly because they're not as vivid. I won't like go as vividly, but they were other red pill moments. Kind of that one's like what set me in motion to start questioning my own beliefs. But there were plenty of others where I'm
Okay.
like, okay, maybe not, maybe not. Because it's like, for example, there was like this gay guy I knew. I won't name drop, but yeah, he was like gay, and like we were friends. But basically, these girls were asking him like if he would date a trans man, and he
Mm-hmm.
said no because he's gay. He likes penis.
Right.
And
He's
basically,
attracted to
they
men. Yeah.
proceeded to attack him and tell him, I'm not even exaggerating. They told him that if you are not attracted to a trans man, there is something wrong with the way you think, and you have internalized transphobia, and you need to change the way you think because trans men are men. So yeah, for any leftists suffering from cognitive dissonance, let me simplify that for you. What they're saying is, if you as a gay man are not attracted to a woman, there's something wrong with you. You need to change the way you think. Okay, so you're against conversion therapy unless it's done by woke girls. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Yes. Well,
Got it.
that was like Chris and I confirmed last week that lesbians
Mhm.
are two non-men who love each other.
Oh, of
So
course. That was one of the ones I was like, and you're blocked. And
yeah.
even on top of that, what was the one that like red pilled me from feminism? Like, oh yeah, oh no, this one y'all might need to sit down for this one. Like, really sit down, like get a drink. This one was something else.
I'm holding on.
Because I was having a conversation with this feminist friend of mine, right? And then basically like I was just like and I'm not like I had done research on like cases of like men preying on younger girls, and basically I had
Mm-hmm.
accidentally come across other opposite situations of women preying on
Yes.
men, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't even know that happened. Because like, and then when I tried to talk to my friend about it, she's like, oh sorry, that doesn't happen, women can't be predators. And no, that's not it.
Mary
Y'all
Kay
need to sit
Letourneau.
down. Y'all need to sit down. She went from saying same situation with the other girl with like the with black on black crime thing. When I
Mm-hmm.
said like when she said like women can't be predators, I showed her proof, and like once she actually like read through it, it was undeniable. She went from, oh my god, this one's even worse than the other in my opinion. She went, okay, Chris, Terry, are you ready for this? Are you ready?
I'm
She
ready.
went from saying that women can't be predators to, let me explain to you why if a man is being a little, sorry, it's not a man because he's a boy. If a boy is being preyed on by a grown woman, not only is it his fault, but also, listen, but also that woman is feeding into the patriarchy by feeding into the male gaze and conditioning that boy to be a rapist. And that's all his fault for allowing it to happen.
Oh my
So
god.
apparently,
I don't.
victim blaming is perfectly fine if the victim is a male. Okay. Okay.
I've heard people minimize those assaults. I've never heard somebody blame the victim and say that it was feeding into the.
Wow.
Oh my
Wow.
god! I was about to say that woman actually that was such a rep moment for me. I was just like, I know not. I must be dreaming. I must be in a fairy tale. She did not just say that. She did not just say, "Let me tell you why when a man gets
I
groomed by a woman, she's feeding into the patriarchy by feeding into the male gaze and therefore conditioning that boy to be a rapist like all other men."
that all other
Yeah, apparently it's
men.
all men.
By the way, Raven,
That is some mental
I
gymnastics
was
that
I posed this question to Terry last time I was on the podcast, and I want to hear your opinion. If a man rapes a woman or preys on children or whatever, and then upon his conviction, he says, standing there with a long beard and masculine features, but says, "I identify as a woman." Does that mean it's not an issue of sexism anymore because it's a woman predator?
Oh, well, I want to give the correct answer, which is, you know, but I'm gonna go with the politically correct
Well, no,
answer
actually,
and
my
say
question is
that,
more:
you know,
what would a leftist say about a situation like that?
well, I think we just heard
oh,
it.
I guess we've heard it.
I think it depends on where you live. In Scotland, it means you get to go to a women's prison.
Okay, well, actually, it's no longer it's no longer like a an issue of like sex because let me tell you, that's actually a woman and she was a woman like the whole time. So yeah,
So
So
she's
she,
just exempt because women can't be predators.
that's not a man preying on women.
Oh no, of course
no,
not. According to the left, that is a woman and women can't be predators. So
So it's
yeah.
just a perfectly acceptable dynamic.
Oh,
yes.
absolutely. It's like I
What
said, the correct
What are
answer
you
would be,
confused about,
yeah,
Chris?
that is an
God,
issue, but the politically correct answer is no.
that's I.
I'm
hope.
in shock.
Yeah, this whole thing is I'm. It's shocking.
Oh yeah, and even the
I'm gonna
moment
have to
that like,
start bringing wine to the podcast to get through it, or beer, not Bud Light.
oh yeah,
Uh,
and even like Chris talking about that, I was about to say another moment that like red pilled me, like it's in from gender ideology was basically like when I was having a conversation with my sister about like a gay guy that I know won't name drop. I mean, I already like name dropped him on my channel, but still won't name drop again. He went into a girl's bathroom and because apparently that's fine because he's gay and these girls were too scared to say anything about it because they thought they'd be called homophobic, and even that had me thinking like, oh, okay, so do we really want feminism that makes women too scared to speak up? That doesn't
no,
seem like
yeah.
feminism to
Yeah,
me.
no, that's a
But
good point.
even on top of that, I'm just like, I'm just
Mhm.
like, so what you're attracted to doesn't really matter. You're not a woman, so you don't belong there. But
No, exactly.
but even
That's
my
completely irrelevant.
my oldest sister, won't say her name, but, she's like really liberal, so she's like, actually, he's gay, so what is he gonna do? Like assault you?
It
Literally,
doesn't
he's
matter.
a man. Why are you so obsessed with gatekeep? I'm like, did my sister really just say gatekeeping women's like female
Well,
spaces from
and
men?
here's the thing: he may be gay and he may not do anything, but how does that stop someone who is not gay going? It's okay for me to go in here. I'm gay, and then going in and hurting
Well,
someone.
the other thing
Mm-hmm.
You're
is,
right.
if a gay guy goes in a woman's bathroom in a public area that's not a school where people don't know each other, how are the other women in there supposed to know that he's gay?
Yeah, what is it?
To
Oh
them,
yeah,
how,
if they
I'm
like, I was about to say,
gay,
to
if they
and
them,
look
I'm
like
gonna
me,
use the
apparently, it's a
bathroom.
clear indicator.
right? But yeah, like to them, it's just a guy in the girl's like they're not thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Exactly. And again, anybody can say that. I mean, so and my thing, why do you want to go in the women's
yeah,
bathroom?
why?
That's
Yeah,
what I don't understand.
it's weird.
What's it? Why is the women's bathroom the most exclusive club in America right now
Exactly.
that
What about the men's
everybody
bathroom? Why
wants
don't
to
women
get
want to go in
into?
there?
Like, what do they think is in there
Oh yeah, but
that
like,
everybody wants to be in there?
no.
And
But yeah,
I'm gonna start bringing my own velvet ropes and putting them up because apparently that is the place to be in America in this day and age. The women's bathroom.
It's because
Everybody wants to be in
Terry.
there.
It's because girls don't poop, so the bathroom never smells.
oh, of course, yeah, girls don't. We all know this.
Oh, okay. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, but Terry, even then, like, what really red pilled me from like gender ideology, like going forward from that was like when me and my sister were having the conversation. I was talking about trans people because we somehow went from a gay guy being in the girls' bathroom to trans people because we just didn't have those kind of conversations. She said that you do not have to transition to be trans, meaning that Chris could be a woman, and if I refuse to acknowledge Chris as a woman, then I'm the problem.
Wouldn't he be Christina then?
Oh, apparently, yeah. But that confuses. So basically, she straight up said that you don't have to transition to be trans, and I was just like,
So all I have to do is
okay, maybe.
arbitrarily say it.
Yeah,
It's in the name.
it's literally
It's
in the
the
name. That's what I
name.
was saying. But I'm just like, so basically, yeah. She said that you don't even have to chop off anything. Like you could have your penis fully intact. You're still a woman, and anyone who denies you that is transphobic in the problem. And I was like, oh
But
hell
I
no.
don't have one of those.
So I wouldn't.
Am I still a woman?
So Raven, according to her, I wouldn't even have to socially transition either. I wouldn't have to dress as a woman. I would just have to say I'm a woman. That's it.
Yep. And that was the moment I was like, oh hell no. I
Now-
am not on the right side on this one.
I can see a benefit to that, Chris. Like if you're going to a ladies' night and you can get in for $5 and drink all you want, you know, if like, you walk up to the door and the guy's like, "It's 20 for you." Hey,
Excuse
I'm a
me.
lady here. Excuse me. Did you just assume my gender?
It's me.
So maybe for ladies' night,
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about it's ma'am video.
it's me.
It's ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Man,
Next
that's not very ladylike.
let's see. What is one thing everybody in this life should eat?
Pussy. Sorry, no. Sorry. Well, I let my intrusive thoughts win on that one. But seriously. Sorry about that. I let my intrusive thoughts win. But to answer your question seriously, y'all might have to edit that one out. My bad. But
Oh no.
okay, I just can't tell my mom to watch this now.
Okay.
Who cares? She'll probably have a good laugh. She knows what I'm like.
Okay.
But,
So, what is one thing that everybody should eat food-wise that you think they should have?
Personally, I'm a fan of like macaroons.
Oh,
Okay.
I should try them once.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. My dad before he passed away, he's a great big guy. He's like 6'5". He wore like a 16 shoe. He looked like a mountain. And I bought him some macaroons for the first time, and I don't know why, but it was so hilarious to me because they looked like minis in his hand. And he was just like, and I bought like 2 dozen for the weekend, and he's like just sitting there just eating them like they're mini Oreos. And so I was like, Dad, these are macaroons. What? I'm like, they're French cookies. French cookies? Why can't you just buy regular cookies? We'll try them. Oh, okay.
Oh my god, but that man has a lot of room in his stomach. You know,
he could put away some groceries. I remember his claim to fame was I could eat 24 Crystal hamburgers. So, all right. So we're gonna go with macaroons for your answer.
The second one's valid too. It's great. Everyone should try it.
Okay.
What is it? You said what?
The first one. My first answer.
Oh, the
first answer. Right. Who are your picks for the president and vice president for the upcoming 2024 election?
Ooh, okay. All right. So for president, I would just like to say, I would like, honestly, if I had to choose anyone, I would say ideally Ron DeSantis. Okay. As for like vice president, if I could just be real for a second, anybody but that incoherent female dog, Kamala Harris. Get her out of there. I will not call women that word because that is disrespectful, but still. Get that woman out of there. I don't want her there. I have
artificial intelligence is AI is 2 words.
Yeah. Like, get that woman out of there. I don't want her there. Literally anybody, except Sleepy Joe, anybody but Kamala Harris, vice president. I don't care.
Yeah, she's embarrassing.
Literally.
She is an embarrassment. I like DeSantis. He's 3rd on my list right now. As I said in my video, I would still love to run my fingers through his thick, dark hair, though. I'm not going to lie. But I would. But I like Vivek. He's my guy.
Oh, yeah, Vivek. I was about to say, ideally, I would want him to be, like even though, like, I'm fine with anybody who is not Kamala as vice president, you know, I would also be fine with Vivek. Like, ideally, I would want Vivek to be vice president under Ron DeSantis.
I think, and I don't think that's bad. And Chris, we talked about this last week. The problem with Ron DeSantis is he's a bright guy, good policy guy. He gets things done. But
Not
again,
charismatic.
he has all the charisma of this
He's
spook.
not good at
And so,
Basically,
entertaining.
he's
Like,
like, it's like, you know, like yin yang, where they're like
yeah.
opposites. It's like he's on like the
yes,
opposite spectrum of a psychopath. Just no
yes,
charisma. That's
yeah.
all.
No. Ron is not the psychopath. He's like, "Hi, ladies, how's it going?" He's like, "Get in the car."
Well,
He's
see,
getting
Yeah.
in there. He's
so
like, "You look
I hate to
lovely."
make fun of
Yeah.
Ron because I think his problem is he has a lot of social anxiety, and I think it's hard for him.
Yeah,
But
I
I
agree.
was watching him shake hands with like an 8-year-old girl on the campaign trail, and he's like nice to see you, like, and he was like he did not know how to talk to children. It was very funny.
And he has what, three,
Yeah.
right? He's got 3 kids.
Like 3, and you still don't know how to talk to kids. Come on,
He
dude.
just he is right. But this is the
It's like,
challenge I
and
think
I
Ron
know.
has, and I have struggled with this in my earlier life, so I get it.
Yeah,
Right is right and wrong is wrong, and this is what works and this is what doesn't, and why do we have to be friends to do that, right?
yeah,
And so it was something, I mean, and I'm not kidding you, when I started to move into leadership roles in corporate America, I really had to work on developing, because my thing was, this is the right way to do it, here's your evidence, we don't need to have a conversation around but you were not going to win. There are very few people who are like that. And you're right, Chris. There's part of me that feels really bad for him, because I think he's very sincere and I think he's a patriot, but he needs a running mate who is
yeah.
very charismatic to help him. And Vivek or
Vivek.
Tim Scott, either one could do it. Either
Absolutely.
one.
Oh yeah, Tim Scott.
Yeah.
That one's a good one too.
Yeah. I like Tim Scott. Vivek doing an Eminem rap in Iowa was absolutely, and I think he appeals to the younger crowd, which
Oh
conservatives
yeah,
don't
definitely.
often
I
do.
love him.
He's somebody.
Yeah.
Vivek is somebody who can win the independents that are needed to win
Yes.
a general.
Yep, he absolutely can.
Yeah.
And I think he appeals to a younger crowd too. And his wife is a surgeon. I watched an interview with her, and so she's pretty brilliant, and she is very comfortable in front of the camera. She really is. She did a really good interview in supporting him. So right now, like I said, I want to watch the debates, and Chris,
Yeah,
we've
it's
got
coming
a
up.
date coming
Yeah.
up. We're going to talk about the debates. Raven, you're welcome to join if you'll watch the
I'd
debate.
love
We
to.
want to break that down and do some clips. All right. Next up, this has got to be family friendly. I had to warn Chris too.
All
What's
right.
your guilty pleasure
Oh,
that you can share with the world?
of course. See. Okay, hold on. Let me get my handy dandy.
Okay. Oh no, I'm afraid.
You should be. It's me. But
Okay.
books.
Okay.
I love to read, you know, as I've said like several times. I mean, like several times. I am, you know, hyperlexic. I've always loved to read. I taught myself how to read when I was really young.
Mhm.
And you know, I have like all of these. I usually like these are just kind of like a few handful of books I found around the house. I'm probably gonna go, if I were to like read all these, I'd probably go through all of them in like an hour. You know, you have
Wow.
the Titanic, you have
Mhm.
Magic Treehouse, great one. Today I Made a
Mhm.
Difference, really inspirational. You have Bad Kitty, loved this when I was younger.
Mhm.
You have Dork Diaries. I really love to reread the whole franchise again. And then you have
Wow.
Computer Science, which is, you know, really great because, you know, I'm really kind of into like robotics and information
Mhm.
technology. You know, a book that's about, what is it? We're gonna see, about a little over 300 pages long. You know,
Wow.
probably
I
taking
thought
up
I was a
English and
fast
really
reader.
informative. Oh yeah, I was gonna say I read it 800 words per minute.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's
That's so
I
weird.
you know,
Because that's like, because it's weird to me because people actually have to like train themselves to speed read, and I'm like, oh, you taught yourself? That's kind of, I taught myself how to do that. I didn't realize you actually had to teach yourself.
I didn't realize that you people actually had to learn that. Oh.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh wow, you actually had to learn that in school. That's kind
Chris,
of
is it me or do
embarrassing.
you feel kind of dumb right now?
Yeah, I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Oh my god.
It's okay. I can be always right and the smartest person on my podcast. It's okay. I can
Okay,
I
Oh,
can
of
take
course,
the
of
hit
course.
here.
You still want to have Raven on your podcast now?
I need to book somebody else.
Okay.
Wow.
Just don't ask him about
This is
reading.
racially motivated.
Yes. He is a white supremacist.
Oh, of course.
What do you think is the number one election issue facing us in 2024? Like, what do we need to focus on and talk about?
Oh, okay. Well, I feel like it's more of like, it's not really so much an election issue, but more so like a social issue that can, you know, definitely play a role in like elections and
Mhm.
politics. how divided America is. And
Yeah.
this us versus them mentality that kind of plagues both
Yeah.
sides of the political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of they kind of like draw this line, and they're like, if you're not on this side with us, you're against us and you're an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, see, this is like our problem, because I feel like even in debate, whenever I see like a good debate, like what I notice is they didn't focus so much on the negatives and what they disagreed on. They tried to focus more on the positives and what they could find common ground on, so they could come together.
That's why I love Vivek. I think
Yeah,
Vivek's
because
very, very good
only
at this.
focus on the negatives, you're not going to accomplish anything.
No, and that's what I like about Tim Scott too and Vivek is here's what we can do. Here's what we should do. Not they're doing this and they're doing that and they're wrong. And look, the other party's going to do what the other party does. What are we going to do to remedy it and make it better?
They both phrase very conservative principles as palatable for all.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. So yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of division, and it's one of the reasons I've really started to train myself to use the word citizen when I refer to people. Is we forget we're all citizens. We all have the same rights, and as citizens, we deserve to be respected. And I do it to remind myself this person is a citizen just like I am. So, I try, to remember that and what they're saying, that they have a voice too. When somebody does something, they're representing them as well, and that's who they elected. But it's that thing of we've stopped recognizing each other as fellow citizens, and we started to see each other as enemies, and that's a problem. It's a big problem, and it's going to take somebody pretty amazing to overcome a lot of that. So we'll see. I don't think Biden's the man who can do it. I don't think Gavin Newsom is the guy who could do it, who I think may end up running for the Democratic ticket, honestly. I don't know how they're going to shake that out, but I think that'll happen somehow. I do think Vivek could. I think he comes out of left field, and he doesn't look like your typical candidate, right? He's not an older white guy, and he's young. He's got his wife is smart. She really knows how to speak and speak to the ticket. So we'll see. But I agree that it's a problem. If you were elected president, what are the first three things you would do?
Okay, well, first thing I would do is, assuming by some miracle Kamala was still the vice president, her ass out of here.
Okay. Fire Kamala. Got it.
Yeah, fire Kamala. She's gone. I'm sorry. I just don't like Kamala. I have no business hating her as much as I do. I just don't like her.
I don't know. I feel like most people do have as much business, but
I'm sorry. I just don't like her. Like, I feel like I have no business disliking her as much as I do, especially when there are other people like Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, the second thing I would do is, honestly, I would try to find a way to once again going back to that point I made before, make America less divided, because the division I see, the intolerance, especially among young people who claim to be so tolerant and progressive, it's just, no.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And third
thing, honestly, so it's like, I'm trying to think of a good third one. Actually, might need a second for this one, because I'm just fire Kamala and make America less divided. Good enough for me. But a third one is, honestly, I would probably try to okay, yeah, it's I'm going back, I'm hesitating because I haven't answered my mind, but I'm going between four other ones. So I'm just which one actually?
Pick one. Whatever. I'm sure they're all good. Mr. Irene.
I would try to I was about to say, I would try to see what I could do to better the economy. I mean, I can make no promises, I'm no Trump. I will try my best to better the economy, because it's not really looking good for us right now.
No, it's not. It's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, Chris? I didn't give you this question.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I wanted to be able to flex too.
No, tell me, what are the first three things you would do as president?
Oh, you want me to answer now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, I've heard the idea of a consumption tax instead of an income tax, I would possibly reduce, or maybe everybody pays a flat 10%, something really low, and then on top of that, it's a more aggressive sales consumption tax on luxury goods. That way, both sides get what they want. The rich end up paying
Yep.
way more taxes because they're the ones getting luxury goods and services, and
Right.
people in poverty get to actually pay no taxes if they're just getting bare essentials. I think that's
There.
the way to do this. That's my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
Number two, um, I would. Oh shit! Now you're putting me on the spot. I wanted to answer this question. Now I can't. Okay, number two. Um, I would. I know this is taking a page out of Vivek's book a little bit, but I would do drastic reforms to all of the government agencies,
Oh
and
yeah.
I would
Oh yeah,
and I
that's
would
important.
and I would reduce their ability to drive policy. I think right
Oh,
now
I like that.
things like the
Yeah.
CDC and the Department of Agriculture are driving policy. They're not just making recommendations. They're
No.
directly their
Correct. Yeah.
recommendations are becoming mandated policy. And I would want to
Yeah.
get Congress to pass something that would limit the power of these agencies. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
and number three, um, I would like to see. I know I'm going to be called a really horrible racist, but I'd like to see a meritocracy type system with immigration, both at
I
the
like
border
that.
and
I
abroad.
support.
And I would like to see people with college, not necessarily college educations, but established trades and education in their home countries
Yeah.
get
And
priority.
even trades.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trade.
Even
Yeah,
trade skills. Yeah.
even if you're just a
I mean,
plumber or a
we
carpenter.
we
Yeah,
are we are lacking for that in the U.S. right now.
yeah,
So carpentry, plumbers, brick masons, all of that are trades that we need. Plus, any education or computers, all of that is great.
yeah.
So yeah, all right. I would vote for you, president and vice president. I mean,
Thank you.
I'd do it. You guys battle it out. Who gets who? All right, Raven, you got two more questions
All
left.
right.
If you had advice for the right and the left, what would you tell each of them?
Mhm. Okay, so yeah, I'll start with advice for the left, even though this advice could really apply to either side. But I definitely, after being, on both sides, I could say pretty confidently that, my experience, I think the left needs this one quite a bit more.
Okay.
Like Chris and I have both said several times in our TikToks, just because you disagree with someone does not mean that they hate you, or just because you disagree with something somebody says does not mean that you should immediately hate them, or be a keyboard warrior. It's like, my best advice to you, to like these people, or really anybody, is it's like, if somebody says something that upsets you, instead of immediately giving into your feelings of anger and
Mm-hmm.
thing in the moment, take a second, step back, reflect, and think to yourself, why did that upset me?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good.
Because
That's good. Yeah, I agree. And I ask myself, sometimes I want to get that key, and I'm like, why did this brush me the wrong way so much? And
why
and
does it
it's
make me
hard to do that.
uncomfortable? Why does it upset me? I will admit, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's easy. It's definitely hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's definitely a lot better and more productive to the conversation than, immediately just yelling at the person, or, hating them, or treating them as if
Mm-hmm.
they're a villain just because they said something you don't like or agree with.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So for the right,
hmm So, for the right, like this one, not really to like all of the right, but just specifically like, a few people I've seen on my For You page, because it's not just a few, it's multiple.
mm-hmm.
I'm just like, can we stop? And really, this goes for anyone. Like I said, this is something I've really seen mostly from the right than the left. Can we stop demonizing people on the opposite side of the political spectrum for
Yeah.
doing certain things, but then doing those same things ourselves?
Yes,
For
the
example,
hypocrisy is
you're gonna
ridiculous.
sit here and mock liberals for pledging allegiance to Biden, but then you're gonna say that even if Trump was found to be guilty of everything, you would still
You
vote
still
for him.
yes, corruption's corruption. Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
So
There
I'm just
has
like,
to
so we're just
be.
cherry picking when it's okay to make fun of
Yep.
someone for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good advice. I'm not going to take it, but yeah, I think that's good. And then finally, what is one unusual fact that you know?
I know a few of those, but
Okay.
apparently, the palm of your hand can't touch your shoulder. Well, unless you unless you do this. Yeah, I was gonna
Oh
say,
my
unless you do
god!
that. But unless you do, if you try this, yeah, no, the palm of your hand can't touch your own shoulder.
What do you mean? I
Like
just
I
did it.
like I can't unless you actually like go back here. But
No, if you go back, he's talking about this way.
yeah,
Like,
this way. Yeah, the palm of your
from,
hand can't.
Oh,
Your palm, right here.
yeah,
yeah,
like
Your
I'm
palm. This right
like,
here.
right.
Try it.
yeah, I can't.
I see.
Yeah, the palm. The
Yeah,
palm. Try it.
Oh, so on the opposite you can, but oh, you're right.
Yeah, for
yeah,
your own.
Yeah,
Try
yeah.
it. Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
But on your own,
Eh.
you can't.
Okay.
This is the palm. This is the palm of your hand, Chris. This
Oh,
is your
piss
shoulder.
off! Get out of here.
Yeah, like try it. I can't. Ugh,
I
it's
know what I have to do
impossible.
with anatomy. Chris, on here. I'm just trying to help you because you're just like, what do you mean?
All
I can't touch the
discombobulated,
palm.
feeling everything.
I don't understand. All right, thank you, Raven. You are done with your grilling. All right, guys, everybody get out your tin hat. We're going to do the 10 hats of TikTok. This is where we, as conservatives, we watch one of our fellow liberal citizens share their thoughts. We take those in, and then we try to interpret those to share them with our conservative citizens in hopes of finding common ground or at least having a good laugh. All right, Chris, I
Awesome.
think you're going to run the video for this week.
Here we go.
All right, let's see what we have to say.
If woman sees me as woman, yes. If woman sees me as non-binary, yes. If woman sees me as man, no. If man sees me as man, yes. If man sees me as non-binary, fine. If man sees me as woman, no. If non-binary see me at all, yes.
Okay.
What?
So,
Okay, Raven, we're gonna go to you because you're the youngest.
all right. So, before I like say anything on this, I just had to say this reminds me of like the funniest thing. What like some of my conservative friends, they joke with me and they say that like I look like a they them.
Okay.
And I can't even be upset with them because I used to go by he they pronouns.
Okay.
But
So you can explain this for us.
so the worst part is it's like I can't even like what I love is like I'm like a wolf in sheep's clothing because it's like let's be honest with ourselves. I don't look like a conservative unless I tell you I'm conservative. You would never know.
Well, you're not white, so yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, also like in regards to the actual video, so basically what I'm getting, and I could be wrong here, so feel free to chime in, is this person they whatever apparently they don't like when men see them as a woman. This person seems to believe, I don't want to say seems to think, this person believes that their gender identity is entirely dictated by the viewer.
Yeah, I was about to
Okay.
say this, that it's actually kind of a reverse narcissism, that the only thing that makes them them is the perception of others, which is
Yeah, it's
weird.
like-
Okay. Yeah.
It's like you claim to be proud of who you are, but who you are depends entirely on who's looking at you.
Yeah, that's
Here's
what
my how are any of us supposed to know this? Does she carry around her phone and people are like, "Hello," she's like,
Like no, look at this right here. If you're a man, I'm not
Yeah.
a sheep.
Yeah, is she like,
Don't say hello.
is she going around with a clipboard polling people to see like what they perceive her as? And like, I don't.
What do you see before we speak? What do you see me? I mean, is there a shirt?
I don't know. I don't get
How
it.
is everybody supposed to know this? I just feel like we should be able to say hello, human being, and that should be the. But then,
But bold of
never
you to
mind.
assume that she's a human being. She could be a Therian for all you know.
Yeah, exactly. So that doesn't even work. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, I don't even understand how I'm supposed to know this.
Yeah,
And
I don't get it either.
I'm so confused. I don't know.
Like,
Well,
no,
it's
you're
very
alone here.
it's tragic because she's basically
Yeah.
saying that she has no concept on her own of who or what she is.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like
very
it's
sad.
that, but I also think it's an ability to control the people around
That's
you.
true.
yeah, that sense
Right?
of control that feeds into her narcissism. But it's like
Yeah.
I was saying, it's so sad to me. These people, as narcissists do, is a bit of a psychology nerd, so don't mind me.
Mhm.
As narcissists do, they have such a weak sense of identity. But
Yeah.
I've never encountered one who has such a weak sense of identity that their identity is entirely dictated by who's looking at.
Yeah, who's looking at
Right,
you or
right.
how they see you.
Yeah.
And I think my challenge is, who cares? This is
Yeah.
what if I'm walking by somebody's like, she looks like a man, I'm like, I will not, okay, whatever. And it doesn't,
Exactly.
I don't care. I
And
don't.
even
No.
Yeah, like
even my thing, I've had conversation with trans people on TikTok, and they're just like, "So if somebody called you a she, you're telling me you'd be okay with that?" Look, in 8th grade, these boys, they could tell I was gay. Because I mean, look at me; it's not that hard to tell. Be for real. But like, they could tell I was gay, and basically, they went out of their way to intentionally call me a she because in their eyes, I'm less of a man for liking men. But do you think
Right.
it bothered me? No, I
No.
didn't care. I just went on about my business. I didn't scream or go on TikTok having an emotional breakdown
well,
because somebody called me a she.
here's the thing, Raven. There are a lot of things that
You just went to the girls' bathroom like
Oh,
a
of course.
normal gay guy.
well here
Like a normal guy, of
here's
course.
the thing, Raven. Though, even if it did bother you, like there are a lot of things that bother me that I don't think should be illegal or outlawed or
Exactly.
like
Like, for example, Dylan Mulvaney saying that he thinks it should be illegal to call him a man
right,
and that he thinks it's worse to be called a man than a sexual predator.
right.
What?
Like,
Okay.
okay.
I
Okay.
saw that.
Yeah. I don't know. So I don't know how much my 10 had helped me with this. I thank you for your effort, but I still don't know. If I saw that woman, I would just avoid eye contact. Or I'm sorry,
Don't make eye contact.
if I saw that being, I would just not make eye contact and continue to walk. Because I'm like, I
Did
don't
you
want to
just assume that she's not a cosmic entity?
I did just assume she wasn't a cosmic entity. How dare
Shameful.
I? I'm
Shameful.
ashamed. I'm ashamed. I probably,
Hmm.
when we get that commission going from the government, though, that'll clear this crap up, right?
Oh,
Well, actually,
All
yeah.
no.
right.
Once that commission's going, the only videos that are going to exist online, period, are going to be videos like that. So we should get
Exactly.
used to
That's
it.
it. Oh, yeah, I'll try. There's not enough tinfoil in the world to get me used to that.
No, yeah, no, nothing. Because you know what's so funny? It's like, there were like these girls I knew who were like super woke and they bought into, all the pronoun crap. And even they were like delayed whenever they used them because it's an unnatural way of
Yeah.
speaking. It was causing like cognitive
Yeah.
over. Even they
Yeah.
were struggling. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
of
oh,
course. It's not. Yeah, it's nuts. All right, so conservative claimer. My problem with the conservatives, and I guess I feel this way because I've done party switch videos you guys have seen repeatedly and ongoing. I'm tired of the Republicans allowing others to dictate our history and conservatives. Oh, you're a racist party. You have a history. Hold on, folks. That's not true. The Republican Party has a long and consistent, as conservatives tend to do, as we learned earlier about conservatism, of supporting civil rights, of freedom, of small government. And we may have wavered it sometimes on that one, but there is a consistent history of passing bills that allow and support freedom, and not supporting bills that oppress and take away rights from people. And I want Republican politicians and I want conservatives to stand up and say, you don't get to tell us our history. We know who we are and
Absolutely.
what we represent. Stop calling us the party of racism
and
when you have
even
Democrats have supported it for 2
So
centuries.
what you're saying, Terry, is you want the Republican Party to become better messengers. That's
Yes,
the
I
main, yeah,
do. And when they say let's teach all the history, let's teach all the history. That's what I want.
absolutely.
Yes. You guys got anything you want to clamor about with the conservatives?
I was just going to say, and this is another part of a whole discussion, so we don't have to get so into it, but
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of knee jerk reactions with conservatism. I've seen people say, if the government says it, I'm going to do the opposite, or if
Yeah.
Biden says it, I'm going to assume the opposite. There's a lot, but I think you're equally a slave to the government
Mm-hmm.
if you by default do the opposite. You're still acting
They're still controlling you.
right. They're still controlling you, and I want to see. And sometimes I see people on the right say, "Oh, I'm a free thinker, so I do the opposite of what the government tells me." That's not
okay,
that's not
not
being
so
a free
you're
thinker
not
either, and
free.
and that's a
That's
trend.
not free.
It's a trend I've noticed, and I think it started with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of questionable science came out of the effectiveness of mask mandates and the vaccine, but I think we should argue those policies
Point by
on
point.
the science and
Yeah.
on the data, not on the government says it, therefore it must not be true.
Yeah. I think there is a panic about the overreach of government right now
Yep.
for conservatives. And that is the reaction. It's almost like a rebellious child when a parent tries to crack down. But we cannot become irrational. We still
Yes.
have to be critical thinkers, and not be reactionary. I think that's a good call out. Raven, any conservative clamor for you?
Well, yeah, an issue I had with like conservatives back when I was like a liberal Democrat, and even when I kind of still have now, is I'm just like, why do you guys waste your time? Like, not I don't mean like you guys, I mean like conservatives in general. Like, why do like some of them like waste so much of their time, fighting these petty little battles instead of actually, trying to, do something productive? I'm just like, are you really sitting here arguing with somebody who believes in a patriarchy
Yeah.
about, why women aren't inherently oppressed in society? Don't even waste your time. Just stop. Just stop.
I think
Some
that's
people
part of
can't.
getting the message out.
Mhm.
Okay, well, if you want to believe there's a patriarchy, that's fine. But we've supported civil rights. We were the ones who did
Mhm.
voting rights for women. There's a bigger picture, and I
Yeah,
think to me that's part of getting the message out that
yeah.
okay, you can believe that if you want,
And
but
that's
we're
me,
not a
'cause
part
that's
of
what
it.
I'm saying. Because I'm just like, see, here's my thing. If, I already, done my video why, debunking kind of, the patriarchy. But, if people still believe in it, I'm just like, you know what? I'm not here to convince you otherwise. Because although, I am proof that, people can change, not everyone can change. Some
Sure.
people are just set in their beliefs. But, even if you do, like, you know what I mean? If somebody wants to sit around and believe that the only reason women on average make less money than men is solely and only because of their women and not anything else, I don't really
Yeah.
care. You can believe that. But, even though it's incoherent with reality, but still, you're entitled to believe that. You can believe whatever you want. But, I would still, like to sit here and tell you about how, Republicans or conservatives, don't support that. Because I'm not going to go back and forth with you for,
Right.
hours or days on end trying to convince you of something you're just so set on not believing. There's
I
no
think
point.
this goes back to in playing offense, get your
Mhm.
message out there and what you want to do instead of playing defense and constantly trying to fight against it. And I
Mhm.
think, and that's one of the reasons I have concerns with Trump is I feel like he puts us on the defense with Vivek or Tim Scott and even Ron DeSantis. Although there's a little defense there with him, it puts us on the offense.
Yes.
Chris, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say to piggyback off what Raven said. Um, I think a lot of people on the left, maybe more than half of them, really aren't reachable. But there are a few people. Obviously, Raven and I were both on the left and we're reachable. And I think you have to
Mm-hmm.
pick the battles with the people that can have their hearts and minds changed, and not waste a lot of time on squabbling with somebody is so on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
And when I say opposite end, I don't mean opinion wise. I mean
They're
personality
like they're
wise and
the
ability to listen. Because obviously, Raven and
Right.
I both have a much better ability to listen and take in new information and learn than a lot of leftists we deal with, because we
Right.
did learn. So I think
Mhm.
Right.
it's being able to identify who can have their minds changed and who can be enlightened and who can't, and not wasting time on the people who can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's kind of like what my content is for. A lot of my content, people might not realize this, but most of my content, it is not for, those left wing extremists who I know minds can't be changed because they're so set in their beliefs and they're unwilling to actually listen to what the other side has to say. They're more for, like left leaning people, even if, ideologically they're really far left, who are, actually willing to listen and hear what the other side has to say, or, people who are kind of, on the fence and, willing to hear what conservatives have to say.
Yep. Yeah,
Absolutely.
one of the comments I've gotten, and I was like, oh, that's what I was trying for, is I had a couple of people who they were like, I'm not a Republican or I'm not a conservative, but I really appreciated you explaining that without being
Mhm.
condescending. And I was like, and they were like, I didn't know that, or I went and researched it myself. And I think that's something we have to work on is
Of course,
making
being better message,
sure, yeah, facts don't have to have an attitude; they just have to be
of course.
facts. And they have to be expressed in a way that's respectful or sharing and can be
And
validated,
if
right?
and if
That's what facts are.
and if facts are really facts,
Hmm.
they don't need the embellishment. They'll stand on their own merit.
They'll stand up. Yeah, the truth stands on its own. So
Exactly.
you don't have to, but you can back it up and prove it. Opinion is where people get very defensive. So, okay, we are down to it. I'm going to do the quote of the day. And then we will have another podcast coming out next week. We had a couple of topics up in the air, so I'm not going to share them yet, but I assure you enjoy it. Thank you so much for my guest. I think this was a great conversation. I hope people learn a lot from it. I think it was thought provoking. I think it also shows that conservatism can align with anything because it's really about freedom and having the ability to live your best life, whether you're a pagan or an agnostic who's going straight to hell, like Chris. So,
Me too. Like I said, hail Satan.
so my quote of the day is about citizenship because I think that that is something we need to start focusing on is we are not enemies of each other. We are
Mhm.
all citizens of this
Of the
country
United
who
States.
want our country to do well. Now what well is, that's what we argue about, and how we get there is what we argue about. But we all want our country to be great. We all want to be in a safe place. We don't want liberals to feel like they're only safe on TikTok. I don't even want that for them. So
I don't either.
even though I is not a huge fan of Ralph Nader, I do like this quote of his, and it says, "There can be no daily democracy without daily citizenship," and I think that's
Absolutely
true.
true.
I think that's true,
Absolutely.
and I'm surprised. Even I can agree with Ralph Nader, who I am not a fan of, but I think that's true. We have to remind ourselves daily, even with those of us who are active on TikTok or we're going out and talking to people. These people are citizens, and so are we, and we have to actively be citizens every day.
Absolutely.
So that's our
Yeah,
quote of the day. Thank
absolutely.
you again. I really appreciate this.